Well then,
Let's get into it.
welcome back. We good? Welcome back, E2 Pipe Dreams. Like always, we're in our Chuck Wallace studio in the Ocho.
The Ocho.
The Ocho. Got my good buddy Corey Alexander, and I got a great guest for you guys. Somebody we've been looking forward to. This guy I've grown up racing dirt track with. We all know him. Big John, Johnny Lewis.
Big John. John. Thanks for having me, guys.
No worries.
What have you been up to out here?
Trying to make road racers flat trackers.
How's that working?
It's good. It's a little bit of a change up pace for these guys, I think, but they enjoyed it, so it was good.
So we're at Chuck Wallace. So you just set up you got Royal Enfields out here.
Yep.
And
put together a slide school, launched the West Coast slide school, so kind of needed not to drive so much. So I put together a truck and trailer and brought some bikes out and leaving them out here, and gonna start doing more West Coast stuff and kind of have it's a good group of people out here, but then it's also just the client base is good everywhere in California. So I'm excited about getting out here and being part of it.
so what does that kind of entail for people that don't know, like slide school? So you've got what, a couple, you got the Himalayas. What do you have? Royal Enfields?
So it's basically a program we put together to be an intro to flat track.
Okay.
So we used the Royal Enfield Himalayan at first. It's like a little 410cc venture bike. Now we kind of switched to a little bit different model. It's pretty much the same thing, but it's just to get people out and try flat track. It's very very basic. It's a 3-hour class, run through the basics, but it's cool because it's just getting people on the bike.
We had some of the boys from the Ocho out there. They were looking rough.
Who was it?
It was interesting because they're going literally from the road race track, and then I'm just trying to flip the gears, and we're sitting opposite side of the bike and trying to get them riding dirt and trying to get them loose and feel the bike being loose underneath them and trying to make, explain to them why it's such a good, background. Corey went through the struggle bus of being a road racer and trying to flat track, which isn't a story in itself. But it was cool to see the guys, kind of latch onto it, see the benefits of it. I obviously have tons of experience with you guys and watching, being at races with Corey, and kind of can explain the differences and why flat track is such a good tool to help their road racing. So it was fun. It was fun to have such a group of just road racers, mainly. Most of these schools I'm doing, it's a lot of venture riders. You guys have a little bit of dirt, but a lot of these guys had no dirt experience. So it was tough.
We get any crashes?
Not as many as I thought.
Okay.
I think I'm just a good teacher, so I kind of limited their actions. But no, we did have a couple. It was more just low sides, and it was when they dipped their head and didn't sit crack on crack, and push the bike down. They just kind of dipped the head and the front end went out, and explained to them why, and they got their stuff together.
So talk us through, where did the slide school come from?
So originally, I've been doing schools, obviously the Moto Anatomy. It's my program I've been doing for a long time. But when I got picked up by Royal Enfield, part of the program was, hey, we want you to develop race bikes, go race, but we want to help develop a program that we can kind of build a kind of model that we can expand it worldwide. So my first launch of slide school was actually in India.
Yeah, I remember you going over there.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So we launched over there, taught some journalists and kind of got it going. Then COVID hit. Then in the mix of COVID, I was able to launch it in the States, and it was like August. And then that first year, it just was crazy because everybody was looking for something to do.
Get out of the house.
I just could not. I couldn't book a date and not be packed. It was just full. Since then, I'm almost 500 people. That actually taught on these Royal Enfields, and it's 500 new people to flat track. So it all kind of came together because Royal Enfield just wanted to get people the experience of riding. It wasn't like they wanted somebody to go super fast and be on a 450. They just wanted to get them out there on the bike and show them that, hey, you can have fun, and you can have fun on this motorcycle, and you can learn a new technique that it can help if you want to be a flat tracker, but it also can help just any type of riding. So it was neat, and now we have schools there's 2 in India, one in Italy, one in UK, and we're launching some other ones.
You go to every single one, or
No,
you've
I've
taught some
basically
people?
taught the guys to teach.
wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's been pretty neat. And then
Big franchise guy.
yeah, except for I don't get no royalties from it.
A lot of people don't know Royal Enfield's pretty big as a brand, right?
Yeah, as a brand, it's like the oldest and the largest motorcycle company. I think they sold like 800,000
I
motorcycles.
was gonna
last
say it was
year.
like close to 1 million bikes or
Yeah,
something.
before COVID, it was. I think that year was like 900,000 motorcycles, and then it kind of backed off, and they're getting back to that number again. So it's
People don't realize how big they are.
yeah, so they're the oldest company too. So they're 120 last year. So they're the oldest continuous running
I
motorcycle
remember
company.
when at my last year in England, I heard about them. It's like one of my crew guys went to work for them and just ride bikes essentially,
Yep.
like just to try to break them and do like tests.
The good
Right?
stuff.
Yeah. Like good job, I guess.
I'm good
But
at that.
so, what was it like being in India?
Indians, it's unique. Definitely put a perspective on life. Just kind of seeing how everything is, the difference of poverty. Just seeing how some stuff's manufactured literally like it seems like on the street. They don't even have warehouses. Just pouring
Really?
metal like and making molds like right there. It's crazy how you see so much in those areas. There's so many people, but the riding is awesome. Like it's like street riding. I don't ride in the States really because just straight highways. Over there, it's just like the roads are so packed with people, animals crossing. Like there's no
Is there
stoplights.
track? Is there like
There's no order. Like,
that's insane?
you kind of have like sides
So
of roads you
blinkers
ride
or-
on. No, it's just horns. Everybody's honking the horn to let you know where you're at. It's just like honk, 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 honk.
That's kinda like
and
me
you're
today.
just trail riding. It's like you're trail riding a motorcycle the whole time. So
That's insane.
I love it.
That is
Like,
cool.
So you were there for how many days? Just
I've been there 4 times now.
but like 10 days or like how
Yeah,
many?
this last one was 2 weeks, so it was a cool experience because there was a big event that Royal Enfield does. It's like 10,000 people, and everybody's on Royal Enfields, and it's just concerts. We did schools. I think I taught 72 people in 4 days.
What's the dirt like there? Is it pretty good? Is
Yeah,
it,
different parts of the country is obviously it's like the States. It's
you just
different.
build a track out of nowhere?
Yeah, the first time I went over, I actually built a track around a mango farm. So it was like literally around mango trees.
That's so cool.
The other time I went over, like this last one, it's an event. It's like a sanctuary for for cows. So it's like they have to get the cows off this property. We have to build a track, and then there's no tractors allowed. So they literally built this thing by hand, water it by hand. It's something.
Those
It's
like Kobe beef Wagyu cows or what?
No, it's just the workforce there. It's like they don't like allow tractors on certain parts of land. It's like there's certain things that they have. So it's like literally guys were watering the track with buckets of water and whisking it with homemade like hay brooms and stuff. It was pretty wild.
Before you went over there, had they heard of flat track before? Like, do they know about American flat track?
They've seen it because of like Instagram and stuff, and everybody, the country's, poverty levels are so much, but everybody has a cell phone over there, so they, see it. And as soon as I like started doing this Royal Enfield thing, like Instagram followers went up like crazy. It's all just Indian people. So
Well,
it's
that's like
pretty
I
cool.
know mine. Like if I post something in the U.S. during like the afternoon, overnight, if it's gonna get any like views or traction, it goes up overnight, and it's all people from India.
They're huge.
and
They're huge motorcycle fans.
Yeah.
It's like it's crazy how passionate they are, and I mean everybody rides. Like you don't see cars, and it's like when I did my first school, it was so I was like flying over. I'm like, man, everybody rides. I'm like, this guy probably gonna be pretty good because in the States, not everybody rides. And they don't ride every day.
Yeah.
These people ride every day. I mean, with the kids on the back. I mean, I've seen kids and dogs and grocery baskets. All
Wild.
yeah, just riding there. So I'm
balance on
like,
their head.
Is
I'm
there
like, these people are going to be able to ride. And sure enough, like, I almost had to calm them down because they were like so anxious, so ready to ride, so aggressive. And I'm like, this is
want a
pretty
shot at the
cool.
title?
But they never have like racing over there.
Yeah.
So it's
Do you
pretty-
think could there be some talent that there's obviously got to be hidden talent, right? If you could groom it, but do you think could be some talent like that got brought over, like gets bring over? Or?
I think it's one of those things that, with this program starting, it always could start something. It's Royal Enfield now does a road racing program over there. Everybody, it's men on bikes, and there's it's like an expert level and an amateur level, and they have like I don't know, 48 guys, and they ride the shit out of these INT 650s like they're
That's
stock
awesome.
trim, and I'm just like,
That's so cool.
holy crap! Like you see some of the videos, and I'm like, I don't think I go that fast in this thing.
I think about that all the time though, because it's like, I don't know, you look at like every other major sport, and there's such a deep field of like population that is fighting to become talented at something, where like what we do is like so small. So I always think about like, what if everyone in the world tried to do what we do? Like
We'd be out of a
would
job.
Would I be that? Would I actually be that good? Or
You're too tall.
yeah, I think so too. I think so too. Thanks, John.
You're pretty tall yourself, John.
I'm way shorter than Corey.
That's why we call you Big John. What about, so like obviously the slide school thing came up from your relationship with Royal Enfield. Prior to that, you had 10 training just itself, which
Yep.
is you still kind of morphed into Moto Anatomy. But prior to that, what was your background with teaching? Because you worked for another school or something like that.
Yeah,
in
I
the
did.
past, right?
I don't know. It was unique. Like through my whole career, one of the youngest kids I remember working was actually Nick McFadden. Like he was like 6 years old. His dad dropped him off, and I was probably maybe six. I wasn't even 16 years old. I just remember like always working with people, and it's kind of funny. Like my mom just sent me like a little letter that I wrote in school when I was like 13 years old, and it was like, "Who am I?" And I talk about everything that my brother, and blah blah blah. But one of the things I put it in was like, I love teaching, I love listening. Sorry.
You all right?
Yes.
You need a water? That whiskey getting to
No,
you?
I was just
Gonna take another swig, big
no,
dog?
it's like dry. It's Arizona or desert got me dry.
Get this man a cough drop.
Yeah. No, it's just my mom sent me this letter, and it was like I wrote like who am I, and it's like about my family and
Big John.
all these goals that I had and stuff. And one of the things I wrote like at 12, 13 years old was like, I love listening and learning from people, and I love teaching people. Like I love teaching people how to ride and do stuff better. And like this is when I was 13 years old, so I just feel like I just always had that natch of like wanting to help people, and just kind of morphed into that. So I then went racing Supermoto, and did pretty good at that. And then when I came
KTM, right?
yeah, factory KTM. And then when I came back to flat track, it was kind of like starting over again. Like I did literally maybe rode once on a flat track bike my whole Supermoto career. Like I literally just went from flat track right to Supermoto. That's the only thing I did. When I came back, Mike Hacker, he's a former racer, started a school called Ride Academy, and it was with Jake Johnson and Kenny Coolbath and myself. They asked me to do it, and I'm like, oh, this would be pretty cool. So I started helping with that, and then it just like morphed into like, man, I just love doing it. And was with Mike for a while, and then I wanted to start expanding, just not being in Virginia and stuff. And that's kind of when I moved to Florida. And then, Mike's like, I don't want to travel that much. And I was like, oh, I'm going to probably go on my own. So I went on my own. And from then it just like, tenfolded, just haven't stopped. It's just like, I don't know what life without teaching somebody would be like. I every day I'm trying to help somebody in some way.
It's kind of unique because you went from how many years on Supermoto?
It was like 3 years factory KTM, and then the 4th year, so I did 4 years nonstop.
And so it's kind of unique, like in our discipline, to move out from just not racing 100% of the time, trying to make it. So, like, how was that transition for you, trying to essentially get out of the bubble, right? Because, like, as racers, we look next year, we got to find a ride, we got to try to get there. And dirt track's a little bit different than road racing, some stuff, because it's a little bit more lax, a lot of homegrown teams and stuff like that, versus like actual. Now it's more professional with teams. But how was it, like, was it tough to get out of the bubble, or was it you just destined to?
I don't know. I think it kind of goes back to my dad. It always instilled in me to like always have a backup plan, always have something to do, always if something doesn't work out, always have, something. So it's like when I was racing, I was still doing schools, I was still working, for him, being a plumber, AC, whatever. I always had something to do. So like, I never even thought of it that way. It's like, if I didn't have a ride, I said, I still teach schools, and I still had another job. So I just always kept active, because I just never was just like, that was the only thing I ever did was just race. Even when I rode for KTM, I'd come home and I'd work in the wintertime and just like I don't sit around that well. Like me sitting around is like on a Sunday doesn't happen. Like I cannot sit around. So I was just always busy, and I think that's what kind of helped me when I wasn't racing full time or wasn't, making the transition. I was only doing, I think the first year I did 3 flat track races or something. It was like I had schools and then work and just always staying active with something. So it was just, I think for me, that was just kind of instilled in me at a young age, just knowing you had to stay busy all the time.
And was it a big trigger to pull like the land? And did you always have a vision of having a property and doing stuff like that, or was it just did you just fall into it?
It's kind of back to that letter that I wrote when I was 13 years old. It was like in that thing I put, I was gonna, teach people. I was gonna do this. I was gonna own a property by the time I'm, mid-20s and have a training facility. Like literally wrote that in the paper. So I think it's like one of those things I didn't know I wrote that, like, until my mom sent that to me just a couple of days ago. And I'm like, wow, I had that kind of, thought process back then, something that I wanted. I knew I wanted then. And it just, just kind of started happening over these years. And, it's kind of that, I built that intuition of what I wanted, and it just kind of ingrained in me and slowly worked towards it without even kind of really knowing I was working towards it over the years.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty neat.
That's wild.
What about, so like you obviously when did the Supermoto thing, I think a lot of people forget because you've kind of like made a name for yourself as this flat track kind of guru with the coaching stuff. People forget how big you were in Supermoto at the time, because that was like it was a short period of time where Supermoto was like a really big and growing thing, and then it was kind of gone. So people forget really quick, obviously, in racing. But
yeah, everybody forgets last year. So.
Believe me, I know. What what were those years like? Because I mean, even I, like, we're very good friends, but I don't know anything about your Supermoto years. I know you rode for HMC and Factory KTM, which was Red Bull, I guess. Red Bull KTM back then, right?
Yep. No, it was something like, it was pretty unique because my birthday is July, so I signed a contract when I was 15 to go race. So like I couldn't race the first couple races, but they already knew they wanted me, and it was like, because I went the winter before and did like a little tryout, and I went pretty fast. We were at a track in Wisconsin, and I like set a 250 lap record. Like the first day I was there, and they're like, "Holy shit, this kid can ride!" And I was just balls out because I'm like, this is like one chance, and I didn't know if the flat track thing was going to happen. What I was going to go, because my dad was like in and out of the sport, racing. He was just like, we'll do something. I don't know. I was like, I'm going to make everything of this. So I rode so hard that I remember that test. And then I signed the contract at 15. Did a couple amateur races prior to that. Then I did my first race, and I think I got 4th or something. And it was neat, but it was only like 3 races left of the season. The last race of the year was so awesome. It was downtown Reno. There's 55,000 people like hanging out of windows, parking garages. Like it was so sick, through a back alley. The races were so big, and it was such like a party too. It was like you got done racing and there was a party afterwards. Like it was just made you feel special, and it was like a really cool deal. And then the next year, they put me up, and I rode a unlimited bike, so it was like a 610. So I'm 16 years old on this like
That's insane.
60 plus horsepower Supermoto bike at that time. No electric starts. You had to kickstart this thing. And I was pretty tall. I was the same height I am now, like then, 16. And I started having some really good races, and like ended up winning that year. It was a big car track. It was a big oval, and we get on the banking, and I was actually the only person. Well, Aaron Yates was actually there.
Really?
And he was dragging me on the banking and was like 10 mile an hour faster than everybody on the banking. And I'm like, well, shit, I can do that. So I went out and I tried it. Same thing in my class, the unlimited class. I could just make up so much time on everybody. And I ended up winning that night. And it was cool because it was over guys like Mickey Diamond. Dave Bafflou was a French guy. He was like a multi-time ice world champion over in French. And he was just like, it was against some really epic people, like racing guys of like, or on track or talking to, hanging out with like Jeff Ward, Doug Henry, like all these legends of the sport. I had no idea who Jeff Ward was. Like, really at 16, I had, until I started, looking it up. Because I followed motocross and stuff, but I didn't know who, he was still older at that time. And I'm racing all these ex-pro supercrossers and road racers and stuff. And I'm just a young kid. And same thing that night. I remember when I won, Mickey came off afterwards. He's like, dude, that was an amazing ride. He said, you scared the shit out of me. He's like,
Sounds about right.
You came out of turn 4. It was like NASCAR banking coming onto the front straightaway. And I remember like road race style hanging off and just being like wide open because I'm leading. And then things stepped sideways. And Mickey said he shut off the gas because he's like, you were just drifting right towards the wall. And like, he's like, he thought he was going to I was going to hit the wall. So everybody like checked up and I didn't. I was hit the wall and checked out and got a big gap and held it. And, won my first race at 16. And I think it was like probably the youngest to win like an unlimited race or whatever in the series. And won that one and had a couple other good results and a lot of podiums throughout my career and just raced some really cool places. And that's the biggest thing I miss about the sport is like, even at that age, I didn't understand or appreciate some of these places I was going and the people I was around, but still to this date, I'm still friends with, Jeff Ward and Doug Henry and see those guys and they know who I am and just know me as like that wild kid. But now, they know me as the flat tracker and, I got to work with Jeff Ward a little bit with flat track too. So it's just been, the Supermoto stuff definitely pioneered a lot for me. It was like, just built some really good relationships with some really good people. It was like, for me, it was like the flat track kid went into the supercross side of things. So I met like, that's when Alex Dunson was with Monster. So I was like, when I came back to flat track, it was like, I had a Monster deal. I was like one of the first ones to bring Monster to like flat track. And then a couple of these other companies that just like, because I had the experience, in an industry that was like a little higher up than the flat track, scene of things. And I brought a lot of that with me throughout my career in different ways, and it's helped me with my flat track career, just kind of uniqueness of sponsorship opportunities or just connecting with people and having good relationships. So it was definitely a highlight of my career, I would say, like at a young age, traveling the country. I remember, I was 16 and I had the option to fly or I could save money and go with the truck driver. And I went with the truck driver and I started traveling the country, seeing the country and saving money just, but mainly just to, see the country and know the ins and outs of like how a semi works and how the race team functioned. And now, 15 years later, I'm running race teams and doing that kind of stuff. So it was like, I was kind of prepping myself back then.
What, so you went from basically being amateur flat track to a factory Supermoto rider. Was it like lucrative back then? Yeah,
no, it was. I signed a half decent contract and then you would win. And it was like, it wasn't massive, but it was like $5,000 at the time, for a win.
More than you were making as an amateur flat tracker.
Yeah. And then some more bonuses and stuff. So, those 3 years were pretty good for me.
Yeah. What was it like coming back to flat track? Were you still racing flat track?
So, well, what's crazy is like, I didn't realize that jump because I remember you were always like 1 or 2 classes up on dirt track. So like the race that always calls me out is, I think you crashed at it, but it's no. But there was this, do you remember that last amateur race we did in Florida?
Yeah.
It was we're super sandy.
Oh yeah.
This guy right here. Yeah. So this is the race I remember specifically about Johnny because he was incredibly fast where nobody was doing the stuff. This was like a full-on moto track for dirt trackers and we're kids and I'm even younger. So, and I remember Johnny like sending it. But then I remember after that we didn't see you. So it's crazy that
So I didn't even crash.
I remember you were so loose.
Yeah. So what happened was I remember I got roosted and I put my head down and I like it squared the corner up. And they had 55-gallon drums halfway in the track as the turn, like the markers in the track. So when I put my head down, I squared the corner up too much. I hit the 55-gallon drum, kicked me up over, and did like a flying V Superman. And when I came down, my collarbone hit the handlebar and broke my damn collarbone. And I pull over, I kind of lean up against the inside of the track, and my dad comes over, and I'm like, I broke my collarbone. He's like, what? Yeah, I broke my collarbone. And he, wasn't the...
Were you on a framer then too?
No, it would have been it would have been a KTM. I think it was on a KTM because that's right when I signed my contract.
Okay.
And I would have had a KTM 450 or something. And
I remember because that's like the last.
that was the last flat track race I did.
That makes like that's crazy because, and I don't know what happened. Maybe I was just stuck in my own world, but I don't really remember because I tried Supermoto as well a little bit, like in Canada and stuff like that. And I remember the races being super cool. Where I don't know, there was like the race in Canada where they had like you jump the barge like onto it and then off.
Yeah, up in Toronto.
And I remember going to a couple of the races, but that's pretty wild how that transition was so quick for you.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like I rode motocross as a kid. You know, I rode in the woods every winter. I'd go with all the pro flat track guys from PA, and we'd just go ride in the woods. And I had such a, kind of love for, riding anything. You know, whether it's snowing out. Me and Jake Johnson, who's my brother-in-law, we would just get brand new CRF 150s. And if it was snowing, we just beat the crap out of them. If it was, nice out, we'd prep the track and ride short track, ride a little supercross track, and just had a lot of, always had fun. So I think that played a big role in it. But also, a lot of people don't know, like when I was 15, before I made the transition into Supermoto, my dad actually sent me, and I did like a Kevin Swan's road racing school. And I also did I went out to Vegas and did Freddie Spencer road racing school. He bought a Hot Bodies, Blake Young. Remember Blake Young's bike? A Hot Bodies
Blake Young.
600. And I did a Weir road race at VIR. And so I had like a little bit of pavement experience.
Did you crash?
I didn't crash, but what happened was, well, I did crash. I had an SV650.
There we go.
So I had we'll get back to that. So my dad bought me a brand new SV650 one time, and we bring it home, and my driveway is like a paved driveway, goes up, and then it turns to stones. So I'm like breaking the thing in, going up and down the driveway, go up the pave, getting on the brakes, getting into the stones, turning around, coming back down the hill. So I'm getting faster and faster. Sure enough, I was on the front brake a little too long, got in the stones, tucked it. Dude, when I crashed that thing, I didn't even try to pick it up. I ran as fast as I could to the woods. Because I knew Big John, the real Big John, was going to be pissed.
Dude, he was big. He was tall.
Yeah, he's
I think the first time I met you or saw you was Path Valley when I showed up, because you always used to ride either at 150 or whatever the fuck you were riding. You would ride this local track in Pennsylvania, and you used to just like ride up and down like that big like quarry or whatever it was.
Side of a mountain.
Yeah, and they used to have like all these cool little things like the slow race and stuff at Path Valley, and yeah, it was wild when I first met you. I was like, there was always a saying like John has always been wild, but like he's either winning or crashing. That's
the same. I just love riding motorcycles, so it's like, my dad owned that track, so that's
okay.
We'd get up there early and I just ride and climb. Everybody's like, can't take an extra 100 at the top of the hill. Well, sure enough, I'd make it to the mountain. And guys on 450, back then 250, two strokes and stuff, couldn't even make it up.
So when did you actually start riding?
I was like 5. I think we got a PW50. Sure enough, crashing into a fence.
It's a reoccurring theme of stuff.
Yeah, so
I already kind of knew that, but it's getting worse.
It does. It's just I push motorcycles to their limits. That's why I have a job with Enfield, just kind of pushing it to its limits. And
R&D, baby.
Yeah. So yeah, I was a horseback rider as a kid. Did some showing.
Really?
Yeah, I rode horses.
That doesn't scare you at all?
No.
Which part?
The 1 horsepower.
Riding horses?
Yeah.
The 1 horsepower.
No, just like, I don't know.
Nah, so I just got a PW, crashed in the fence, took the train wheels off then, because I had the train wheels on, and then caught a rock and just turned me. It wasn't my fault, that time. And then kind of how I got into racing was we went to a local motocross race at this track, Pagoda, did a motocross race. My dad looked at the district book and he thought the next race was going to be a motocross race, and ended up being a flat track race. That's how I fell in the flat track. We met Jared Mees, realized that Jared lived 2 miles down the road on the same road.
No way.
Yeah, we lived on the same road. So that's kind of how I fell into flat track, and I'm kind of pissed that I did. It would probably been a pretty good motocrosser if I just stuck with that.
So what was that like? Because Pennsylvania is kind of a hot spot for flat track, which is interesting because it's like every other motorsport's pretty much California or like Georgia, Florida, if you're going to be into motorcycle racing.
Yeah.
Except for flat track, Pennsylvania is the spot.
Yeah, I don't know. It just I wouldn't have known that growing up, that not every area had 15 local pros that go to the pro races and make nationals, and on given weekends you're riding at my house. Like that's how it was. Like I had that many pros, and we had a track at my house, and they just kept showing up and riding. So that's kind of what elevated me to get pretty fast pretty quick without my dad having any background in riding. So but then the cool thing is that we had such a wide variety of tracks in Pennsylvania. We had cushion half miles, we had clay half miles, we had clay short tracks, TTs. A local TT was only 7-8 minutes from my house. So we had so many tracks that were so available, and they were good. They're good tracks. They were good car tracks and good clay, and I learned how to ride a little bit of everything pretty quickly.
I feel like they've got some of the best half miles, like the dirt for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Yeah, we had some good ones.
And then
A lot of them are being
you
shut
got the
down.
biggest race of all, Timonium.
Yeah, that's on concrete.
I've even been at Timonium.
It's Timonium.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
So I'm the only person to ever go backwards in qualifying. So like they do a 1-lap qualifier deal, and it's been going on since like the 70s, if not more. And I asked one guy, I walked up to like the main referee, I'm like, hey, when we go out, I'm just gonna go to the right and just get everybody off guard. And dude, I had this guy Wayne Sobey, he's like the referee. I had him tripping. Like ran my lap backwards and actually ran a pretty good lap time. And then, they're all yelling at me and stuff. And then Brett, this guy walks out and he's like, no, it's fine. I told him it's okay.
Where did you qualify?
I probably would have been pretty good, but I waved it off.
You waved it off?
Yeah, so you get 2 chances, and I waved it off because I'm like, I probably wasn't that good. And I think somebody said I ran like a 7.3 or something, and like a fast lap time is 7.1.
Isn't that like See Texas Spa? Isn't
Oh.
that like the king? Think you could beat him?
Do we really need to talk about it?
Oh, dude.
No,
It's going to get into a Twitter
we
beef.
had some good races there. I mean, it was either one. I usually either won
Win it or bin it,
or
baby.
just took out people so hard. It's like it's 7-second lap time around a concrete track, and you have tires. They're only marker to mark the track. So
Yeah.
if you're not gonna make it, you just aim for the tire and just jump the tire and hope you hit that
Yeah.
guy harder than he's ready for.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So your dad obviously like had a big part of getting you into racing, and then through that, like I didn't realize you guys had a track that you actually owned and whatnot. So what was that like?
Yeah, we owned it, but it was so far away. It was like 2.5-3 hours. So like we just could never get up there to actually get any extra practice or nothing. So it was cool. It was one of those things where, as a kid, when he bought it when I was like 11 years old, for 7 years until I was about 18, I thought the goal was like, hey, I'm gonna give this thing to you. Well, he sold it on my 17th birthday. So like I was a kid like thinking I was gonna have a racetrack. And he sold on my 17th birthday, and then I didn't have a racetrack, so kind of have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder for that one.
Sounds like
Thanks,
it.
Dad.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
What's your relationship like with your dad now?
We have peaks and valleys. Right now it's great. We it was one of those deals where he was so behind my racing for so long. We did everything. We had a plumbing business, so he could take time off, and my grandfather ran it, so we went everywhere we could go race. We went to New York, we went to out Ohio to ride more cushion half miles or just race the fastest half mile kids. Do the amateur nationals, go to Florida. We just we traveled a bunch. He always made sure I had the best motorcycles. I mean, the year I won the Horizon Award for flat track, I think I had 6 motorcycles at the amateur nationals. We had like at that time it was like 252 stroke. I had a framer, I had a stock frame, I had a 450 framer, 450 stock frame, a Rotex, and a KTM like 505. So like had all the best, and always had help, and kind of always made sure I had good stuff, good gear, looked good. He made me like call my sponsors, after even at like 12 years old, call them, thank them, back when people actually use phones.
Right?
Not just sending texts or emails and getting mad because nobody responds to you, but it was like I actually called him, thank him, and he was really hard on me that way, and like really hard with me racing. Like he wouldn't let me like play with the other kids. It was like I was at the racetrack to race a motorcycle, so I wasn't allowed to take a bicycle, wasn't allowed to run around. I raced motorcycles, and he always reminded me how much money he was spending. But now at the time I was like, man, this is horrible. Like, is, being 12 years old and be told like, man, I spent this much money and you crashed, or, if I did good, he was, obviously happy, but he was, tough on me. And at the time, obviously didn't like it. But now I look back, I'm like, man, he created something pretty good for me, the mindset that I have now. But the tough thing was when I got my factory KTM contract, you think dad would be stoked, he signed a contract. He was like the opposite. He went like, oh, you don't need me anymore. Just you don't need my help. And from that day, I think he went to like 4 of my pro races.
Wow.
Went from,
Even since then now?
yeah, like went
Wow.
to every single race, wouldn't miss anything, drive all night long to get home, sit at the race, an engine builder, make sure he got my bike done, and bug the shit out of the engine guy just to make sure I had the best stuff to turn around and literally just like, you don't need me anymore, and stop going racing. And it was pretty tough on me. Like as a, I'm like, wow, this is when I need you the most. I need your guidance. Like, yes, you're not working on my bikes and this and that, but kind of needed his guidance. I was a young, reckless, 16-year-old kid at the Supermoto track. And now my mom's coming to the races and she's never got to go to the races because she was always home with my sisters or the animals they had and running a business. So now my mom's coming. Now she's like,
New to the whole thing.
yeah, and everybody knew Penny because she was blonde hair, and everybody's like, your mom's hot. I'm like, chill, chill.
Dang.
So it was tough. So that was tough, like racing and then just not having him there. And I overlooked it, I think, at that time. But now looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I had had him for certain things. And then when the KTM thing ended, and I kind of got back in the racing, it was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I had everything kind of handed to me with this KTM thing. And I asked for advice, and he was like, just quit racing and just go work. So he was never super positive with the racing thing then. But I also think it was just because he loved me and he just wanted to keep me safe. I think he realized, like, what did I get my kid into? This stuff is dangerous, and I think that's as a father, and I see it now as a father, it's like getting my kid into stuff. I'm like, just kind of wait a little bit. But
See how much
I think that's the emotions that he went through. And, I don't hold anything against him there, but it's just, he was tough. And so, then I started working more for him. Even when I was riding for KTM at those years, I'd come back and I'd work, just to learn and trade, like I'm a, pretty good plumber, I can install AC units, I can build stuff, and it was cool because at a young age, I, continue to do that. And now to this point, I've built my own facility and can build stuff, build houses, and he instilled a lot into me. But it was damn tough. It wasn't easy. It's like James was bringing about the talking about when I crashed and broke my collarbone. It's factory KTM, signed a contract that year. Wasn't old enough to race for KTM yet, but the whole ride home for 15 hours, he's just yelling at me saying, I ruined my career. My career's done, this and that. And just because he was mentally just couldn't get over the fact that, one, I got hurt. I got to go racing that year. Even though he was like over racing, he was still that dedicated to it and just like really thought like he was just that worried about me getting hurt that it was, could have messed up my career. But it still taunts me to this day because I remember riding home 15 hours from Florida with a broken collarbone that I probably should have got fixed there. But he's like, threw me in the back of the truck. He's driving you home. And, basically made my mom take me to the hospital. And my collarbone's like barely sticking out of this, almost sticking out of the skin. But it was that kind of stuff as a father now, like I see how much, how hard it is, to watch, ones you love do something, get really good at it, have so much passion about it. And then, whether I got a ride or got hurt, it's all emotion, so I learned a lot from that, but at the times I didn't realize that. And you kind of sit back and you start to kind of think about all these things a little later in age. And, it's kind of stuff that has now helped me as a coach. It's really all this experiences I went through. I kind of look at it and go like, there was a reason why I went through all this stuff.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I was reckless, to make everybody else not reckless on a motorcycle.
Right. So, like you say, how hard it was. Now, you work with a ton of like the young talent, right? That's kind of a lot of your thing is you work with a lot of good young riders and help develop that. Now, are you working with, do you see that? Like, do you try to stop that with like their parents and try to say, hey, back up, or even because you have your own kids,
Yep.
2 kids, and do you try not to do that there too, or do you be hard on them? Like, how do you balance
it's
that?
tough.
You know,
I totally bring up everything to every parent. If I see it, I have no filter now, because I know what they need to do to make a little bit more success. And I say, hey, like, being hard on them is good, but being too hard and doing this, is like, I kind of definitely try to guide them the best I can. I mean, I've literally told people they just need to quit racing because they're going to destroy their relationship with their kid. And this stuff's not worth it, just because it was that bad. And they did. Like, it took my advice in a way. It's like, you don't want to tell somebody that, but you want to have a relationship with, your kids or people you're around. And for me, that those people are still really close to me because they're like, you were straight, you were honest to me. There's no sugarcoating. These people are out here riding motorcycles, and it's, you don't want to sugarcoat something. You want to be 100% honest all the time. And I think that's what kind of built my reputation up to, is everybody knows that, if they come to me, I'm going to tell them. Either
transparent.
They need to do this, or it's really hard for me to hold back and not say something to anybody. And the talent thing is tough. It's like, I have worked with a lot of kids now, a lot of parents and stuff, but it's like, and like the whole 450 class that I've pretty much worked with, and now like twins riders I'm working with, I'm like, damn, I'm getting old. Like, Dallas Daniels, I worked with
you
since
got some grays coming in here, John.
Yeah, I worked with Dallas since he was 10, and now he's kicking my ass.
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
Is that cool for you, or is it like sad?
It's cool. I don't.
Have you stepped
Throughout
over
my career, like, I always joke about it. I'm like, I'm not really competitive against other people. I'm always competitive against myself.
Hold on.
I know my limits.
Hold on.
No,
2020 Daytona.
I know what I'm capable of. I know
You're a
what
football
I'm capable
player, big dog.
of. Yeah, don't worry about it.
That's crazy.
Would you consider your dad like a moto dad?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, he was 6'5", and you could see him on the outside of the track. Like,
Dude, he had the biggest.
When
He
you
had
just
the
talk about your dad right now, he just sounds scary.
dude. He had the
it's just like,
biggest,
if
burliest.
if I have a big
beard.
lead,
That's how I imagine him. I don't know what it actually looks like, but I just imagine.
Dude, he's a
doing
lumberjack.
this.
Like, this guy, if you showed up, like, if there's a trailer, it would opening scene, axe.
No, he was, and it's kind of funny because I'm wearing blue. I never wear blue jeans, but I'm out of clothes. I've been out here for 2 weeks. But he's blue jean, black shirt, white pull-up socks.
Red flannel.
Sometimes
Dude, I'm just telling you right now, dude, you never wanted to get into a fight with Big John.
Oh,
Or
I've
Lil
seen him
John,
at a
because
fight
Big John
before.
was coming.
No,
for
and
him.
he was testy.
Yeah.
Like, we're spoilers. We just.
Oh, Phil
Luckily, I
Well, it's
never had
kind
a-
of funny because you talk about like having all the bikes, and it's like I've heard the same exact thing from Big Phil over here.
Oh yeah,
Every single bike known to man.
Oh, yeah.
At amateur nationals.
100%.
It just seemed to be
I
how
literally,
it was.
it's dirt track is a crazy thing. Like, and when you're going for it, it's crazy. When I went up for my Horizon Award, I lost it, and I mean, you got to race 3 classes. You had to have, at the time, you had to have a framer and a DTX, or else you lost everything if you couldn't ride a frame, or at least have it ready. So it's like 2, 4, 6 bikes plus backups. Like, I remember, like, crazy, we were in Illinois, and we had 2 parking spots. They used to call it Philinois, because we used to have a little station, right? You've heard it. And I mean, we were in the same boat, and it's funny you talk like that because my dad was pretty hard on me as well, but it's different. Like the phone calls and stuff about with sponsors, crazy enough. Rod Lake, I called Rod Lake for money because everybody did, and Rod Lake told me to go into real estate. He'd pay for me to go to school in real estate and get out of racing. Like, that was my phone call. So I get it, but
That's funny.
here I am.
Obviously, you have 2 sisters, right?
Mm-hmm.
One married to
Jake
Jake.
Johnson. Yeah.
Jersey Jake,
Jersey Jake.
the big dog.
For a long time.
So your whole
too.
family is
Yeah.
at the racetrack, obviously.
Yes and no. My little sister Jennifer really didn't come that often. Jody, when I was amateur, she was like my mom. She was at every race. She took care of me. My dad was off working on bikes, and just, she was the one that kind of, for a long time, and then she met Jake, and then she dumped me. Kicked me to the curb. No more mom anymore. yeah, so she was a big part of, like, I just remember always being at the races, and obviously she was, in love with Jake. And
What's that like having a sister dating somebody you're racing against? Were you racing against
no,
Jake?
I
He's a
never.
little bit older,
Jake was
right?
always older. Yeah, he's
Did he ever give you any advice? Like when
I
you're,
don't think so. I don't think Jake really gives advice. He's just
Yeah.
Jake. He's just,
super talented.
super talented, and just so mellow, chill. Like, there's no vice. It's
Yeah.
just we rode together a little bit. Like I said, we'd have 150s and we just thrash them. Like, I remember one time we bought brand new 150s, pulled them out. It's snowing, and we just literally off, like, full wide open through my dad's field, just tearing it up for hours in the snow. But no, it was cool. Like, obviously, just all those guys were always around. Again, probably because he's my sister.
Apparently your mom too.
Yeah, back then. But it was just, I always got advice from, everybody. It's like, in a way, obviously if Jake wasn't telling me, Jake's so talented on a motorcycle, I'd just sit there and watch him, like, he would do stuff, and he was so loose, just like letting the thing do it, where Jared beat over and he's so precise and he's trying to beat Jake and he's trying to hit every mark, where Jake's just letting the thing do its thing. And I remember one time it was Jody's prom, maybe. And we're riding the day before, like, as before Jody's prom. Jake falls down. Jared's looking back, and Jared runs right into Jake's back and has a full, like, motocross tire mark on his back, like skid marks. So Jake had to go to prom and wear, like, a dress shirt, and it just being, like, so messed up. It was like, that's the kind of stuff. I was always around the guys riding and always doing stupid stuff, and obviously I was the younger of everybody, so I got instigated, and that's what kind of, I think, led into me being the wild, reckless guy that I am. And you tell me to hit something, I'd probably, jump it off of something or try to go in the corner harder than somebody, just because I had those guys as my influences.
Makes sense. Going back to like the moto dad thing, what do you like? I always wonder. I didn't really have a moto dad kind of thing. My dad was always kind of just like, if you like riding, go ride.
Yeah,
if you
fun.
don't, I mean, we really didn't even race too much when I was like that young. I had Uncle Richie, but he wasn't the moto dad
You had
type
Uncle
at
Richie.
all. He was a silent and deadly type. But would you prefer to have, like, going back? Would you, if you could pick it one way or the other, would you have it the way you had it, or
Yeah,
would you
I think
rather?
now for me, I think just seeing people go through careers and struggling with, times of not having rides and doing stuff, it never really stressed me out, because I knew I always could do something. Like, and I think that was something that instilled in me for a long time, is like, if I wanted to do it, I could figure it out. And I always seemed to find a way to figure it out. Like, throughout my whole career, if I really wanted to do it, I'd make it happen. Like, in some way, if I needed to make money, I'd scrap metal and have enough money to go race. Like, I never were just, like, gave up. And, like, I think that's definitely something my dad instilled in me. And, like, to this day, like, it's good and bad, because, like, then there's days I can't sit still, because that's how my dad is. Like, he's just always building something or doing something. And so I don't think I would change it. I look at it, though, and I see it, because I'm that chill dad with my kids. Like, I watch Maxon ride or Clary ride, and they're so like, holy shit, they actually can ride motorcycles. But I'm not going to tell them that, because I'm not going to force it. Maxon has, Jack Sipes, Ryan Sipes' boy, that comes over and rides. And Ryan's like, Maxon, you want to ride? He's like, no, I'll work on the track, or I'll watch him and I'll tell him what he's doing wrong. Like, he's like, sees me as a coach, and he, like, already said, like, I'll be a coach when I get older. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And they're aware of what's going on. So, like, they jump on a bike, and, I don't even tell them what to do. They sit forward on the bike. They go in the corner to get their leg out. The other day, Clary's riding her bicycle. She's like, Dad, you see me go around the corner of my bicycle? I'm like, no. She's like, I'm getting my leg out. Put my leg out. I'm pointing it to the inside. And, like, they listen to everything I'm saying. So it's like, I'm trying not to force it as a dad on any way. Because I think, I don't think I was forced, because I think I actually loved riding motorcycles. Like, I just, seen pictures the other day. Like, I had a XR50 or, CRF 50, and I'd ride that thing every morning before the school bus. I'd do wheelies up and down the driveway and make a little short track on the driveway. It's all I did. So, like, for me, Maxon's got other stuff he wants to do, and I'm kind of cool with it. I'm kind of not saying allowing him to do other stuff, but he's in like kind of like a dance class, and I'm like, man, I wish I would have danced a little bit because it would actually made me a better rider. Like there's little things that just moving bodies and doing things. I'm like, all right, you do that now, and then when he wants to ride, if he does, I think he naturally has it. So
Yeah.
I think I'm.
Well, if he's got like even 10% of what you have, you're a pretty talented guy.
Thank you.
So
thank you very much.
yeah, that's it though.
When you
That's all
came
I
back to flat track from Supermoto, my like opinion of flat track when I was, I don't know, it was probably even, you're pretty old, so that was probably before I even was around flat track at all. But as a road racer, just kind of walking through the paddock, the vibe was very much like, what are you doing here kind of thing. Did you have to deal with that when you got back?
Yeah, I was. It was up and down for me because it was kind of the timing when everybody used to race framers, and that year I came back in like '09 kind of. They got rid of framers completely, and we were just all on DTX bikes. So not that I had an advantage, but only thing I've been riding is a DTX bike for Supermoto, dirt bike, and so a lot of guys were making the transition, getting back off of framers, riding DTX bikes, trying to figure them out. And yeah, my first pro race really was Daytona Short Track 2009, and I skipped basically the pro sport class. You know, I didn't even do that. So I went right to like the top class. So my first Daytona Short Track, it was the last time at the old Daytona Stadium.
Yeah.
And I actually went out and I qualified first. So like it was little blue groove, and I don't know, just the thing clicked, and I could keep it on it, and I went fast. And the problem was, I went fast by myself, but around everybody, I did not have the idea of what I was doing with like racecraft.
That place was gnarly
you
at
know,
night.
I remember taking off the line and just there was like a little drop on the back straightaway. You know, like they had the track built up and then the hay bales and it dropped down. And I don't know how he did it, but I remember JR Schnabel down in the, kind of the ditch, popping up, taking my bars out this way, and then Jethro Halbert taking my bars out this way, and I'm just going into turn 3. I'm like, what am I doing right now? Because these guys were they were aggressive. And I kind of joke now because it's like, everybody's been kind of complaining about aggressiveness and this and that. I'm like, dude, I don't think people realize how aggressive it was, like for a few years at least. Then I came back. It was, if you gave an inch, it was taken, and now it's like you bump a guy, you get yelled at,
Yeah.
or you lean your head into him, you take him out,
Dude, I was going for a championship, bro.
I mean, I might have, didn't care.
Whatever.
But no, it's, it's just I came back and I struggled with making friends. My kind of rookie season, I got into it with Cool Beth.
Didn't he punch you? Or he?
Later in my career.
I was gonna say,
I think I remember
I was
that.
there for that one.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Did you have a helmet on too?
I did. So, I wasn't even, I
think
got
it's
me
on
from
YouTube.
behind, so it wasn't even fair.
Where was that? That was it Black Hills?
No, it was Hagerstown, wasn't it?
No, it was in,
I was there at the race.
it was at Williams Grove.
Williams
Oh.
Grove. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so I struggled with making friends because I just, again, thrown in, I had talent. I just did not understand racecraft. It's like, didn't understand how to really flow with those guys and things. And I might have stuck it in places I should not have. It's an ongoing thing. But,
Heard that about you before.
Big
happens.
John.
But it was like, I ran into a lot of people. So I definitely did not make friends and struggled with that. And, but I think having a tough dad and just kind of brushing, stuff off and just going, whatever, like there's always next weekend. I don't need friends. I'm just going to go race. And,
Didn't have to do with taking anybody's girlfriends or anything like that either, right?
No.
No?
We don't need to get into that. But no, it's some up and downs throughout my career, just, trying to find that balance. Because throughout my career, I never really solely had a real race program. For like 10 years of racing, coming back to flat track, I got offered a ride, do this, do a couple races, they run out of money. I do this, I get hurt. So like legitimately, I've never done a full, complete season of my racing career ever at flat track.
Yeah. I talk to a lot of people about you and just how talented you are, but that's one thing I've never really understood is how you've never been able to put it together for a full year, because I think like you have the ability and the level to be like a championship winning guy and be like just like any of those other guys out at the top, but it just seems like for whatever reason you've never really been able to put the pieces together, whether it's like you said, like injuries or just bad luck or whatever.
It was like early in my career, it was just, I put a deal together with Mike Scott, Tyler Scott's dad. He owned a dealership, and we kind of were the pioneers to kind of help, with the Kawasaki. Like, Bill Warner was doing one, we were doing one. They were fast on the miles. I was getting faster and podiumed on a Kawasaki at a half mile. I got second, and felt really good that night. Also didn't make friends that night, but it was my brother.
I think I remember.
It was my brother-in-law and Jake and Jared Mees. We got into it heavily, just because the Cowie was so different than the Harley.
I remember you were going way up and catching them because they were running around the top on the hogs.
To kind of keep their momentum up, and I could flick the thing in and make up like 15 bike lengths. I could slide in, pass them, get in the middle, and I'd have to try to get the thing slowed down to turn. But at that point, they had the momentum, and they just run me straight into the wall, come off the corner, and if I wouldn't have lifted, I would have been in the wall. They were giving me no mercy. That's another story, but I was able to outsmart them and brake check them basically going in. They thought I was going to run hard, and they turned it, and I was able to like square them up and get away and end up second that night. But I doing good, with Mike, and earlier in the season we didn't have the money to go to the first race, so already I didn't do a full season. We didn't have the money to go out to the first race, and then we skipped a couple others that year. And then the next year was like, all right, we're doing it. And that's the year I won Daytona short track. The first night, the second night, Jared Mees cleaned me out after I finally made a good pass on him. I made a nice clean pass. Last lap, going into 3, he cleans me out, and he doesn't even win the race. He gets second. Good old Matt Wyman won that one.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, full face helmet, chest protector.
Dude was insane.
It was good style.
Dude, insane. I still can't believe he won that race.
Yeah. So then we did a couple more, and I was sitting third in the championships in the twins class. And the problem was I was getting all the sponsor money. I was working full time for my dad, so I was getting done at 3, and I would drive an hour and 15 minutes to Mike's shop after work almost every day. Work on the bikes, work on the truck. We were building a box truck up. Turn around, drive home, get back at like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, wake up at 6, go to work with my dad, and go racing. And that's kind of when like the series just had no money. Like you were making nothing. Like you'd be
fighting for a G-bar. That's kind of how that thing started, right?
If that. And there was just no money to be made, and I'm like, I couldn't do it anymore. I was so burnt out. Like, it wasn't even fun. Like, I'm just like, what is the point? Like, who cares if I get third if I'm doing all this work and I'm literally broke at the end of the year? Like, that's how I looked at it, because money was such a thing with my dad. He always instilled that in me, and it's like, me and Mike started butting heads. I went to Hagerstown. It was the last race I did was Hagerstown, Maryland, and I felt like I could have won that day. And I should have won, and we were fighting on bike setup, and I ended up 4th. I couldn't turn the thing. I couldn't do what I wanted. I ended up 4th, driving home. I was pissed off, and I basically called Mike, and I was like, I quit. I'm done. It's not fun. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm sitting 3rd in the championship, and I just like gave it up. So
you think that's like something that's occurred throughout your career in different situations like that?
No, that was probably the main like one where I was like, I gave up, and looking back, I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, I was 3rd in the championship. We had miles, we had good racetracks to go to, and that could have been my, kind of kickstarted my flat track career. And I just gave up, but I was worn out, and that's when I was like, whatever, I'll just do schools. At that time I was making more money doing schools. And
what year?
That was like 2012.
Okay.
So that's when me and Hacker started doing more schools. I mean, we would get 24 people to come to a school, it seemed like. We had so many people because we had Jake, Coolbeth, myself, which then became kind of an issue because I was also battling with those guys now, and they didn't like this, even as my brother-in-law, whatever. I was the new kid, and I was mixing it up with those guys, and it was like my family wasn't getting along. Me and my sister weren't getting along because me and Jake were having issues and stuff like that on the track. And it was just like, that's not worth it. Like, I'm just going to walk away and just go do schools. So I did that. And then that year I went and did some Supermoto stuff again. I went over to Belgium and had a blast with that.
That track looks sick.
Yeah.
Was it raining that year? Or
No, that year was good.
is that the one with the asphalt?
No, I wish. That's in,
Okay.
like Bulgaria.
Yeah. So I remember you doing that in Europe, and those races still are packed every year.
So that race that year, there was 350 people trying to qualify for a 48 rider main event,
That's insane.
and I ended up 10th in that class. So that was like shit. I missed Supermoto. So that was actually the next year in 2012, 13 is when I actually tried to bring Supermoto back. I worked with the guys from the East Coast, and we started, kind of help them get more races. We did some stuff. I did some pretty cool stuff with them. Like, we raced at an old music park, and I used my creativeness to like, all right, we're gonna do Supermoto schools. We're gonna create this series. I had a good year. I did win a Supermoto championship.
Nice.
My own championship.
You won a championship. You're the only guy racing.
No, there was fast guys. We had Blake Wharton come out, Supercross
remember
Blake
that.
Wharton.
I
We had a
remember
couple
that.
other guys.
I think I came and did one.
Yeah, I smoked your ass too.
Probably.
But I'm like, man, I love Supermoto still to this day, but I had a blast doing that. And then that next year I got a call from Triumph. Joe Kopp called me and was like, hey, you want to ride this thing? I'm like, yeah, sure. He knew I was still good on a motorcycle, and we went and tested, and I'm like, man, this thing's not bad. We can make it work. And it was a struggle. We broke a lot. And then, it was a tough year. Like, we had a couple promising times. I got, won a couple heat races and got second to Brian Smith at like this mega miles, 1.25 miles. It was massive, big cushion in Virginia. And then the thing blew up. So we broke a lot. And, at that point I started getting used to motorcycles breaking and starting being okay with it. And, I got frustrated a few times and then realized like, hey, I'm getting paid. I'm developing a bike and it's part of it, So I kind of started taking that role of like, yeah, that's part of it. And then unfortunately that year, that would have been another year, I would have almost done a full season. I twisted my knee and at a Lodi, anchor bits ran into me and it ripped my knee back, and I did something to my knee and I had to miss 2 races. So I missed 2 races, still again. So I did that season, but never did a full season because I got hurt. At the end of that year, I was like, man, it was tough. Joe was tough to work with. You work with Joe.
What's crazy is me and Joe are like,
he was really
tight.
He was really tough for me. I think it was because he was just retired, and he was trying to be the racer still in certain ways, and it was just really tough. So we butted heads a little bit. I didn't really like show him that I was frustrated, but it was just like he frustrated everybody else on the team, and I was like the middleman. So it was kind of tough. So that next year, I was like, I don't feel like doing it. So I didn't do it. I didn't race with him. I got offered, but I just didn't feel like dealing with that situation. Went back and did more schools again. The next year, I rode Walters KTM at a few selective races. Had a couple like
Lima was good, right?
not Lime. It was the Mega Mile again.
There you go. I remember that.
Should have won that thing again, and the clutch went out. It was like one of those deals where I'd show up and I'm fast. So it's crazy thing is through that and from there to now, whatever. But as I have the record for the most different brands to put into AFT main events. So I literally just
That's
jump.
a cool stat.
It is, but it's also not. It means I just
Yeah.
wrote a bunch of shit. Somebody was like, "Hey, jump on this thing, ride this
Yeah.
thing," and I talk about it all the time in my schools though. Like every school I talk about, I'm like, yeah, I have the kind of the record. I don't sometimes I haven't even bring that up because it's not something I'm proud about. But I'm like, hey, I can jump on anything
Got this trophy
because
at home.
because I can use the rear brake. I talk about the rear brake, and I'm like, all those motorcycles I rode, I just jumped on, and because I can control the rear brake, I can fix the suspension, I make the motorcycle handle, and I could do good enough. So everybody could see that. I just show up and I'd ride that, ride a KTM, Triumph, then I jumped on Ducati, and then it was like other brands. And then kind of when it was like, I needed that kickstart, and I thought I was going to get my next ride was when the year the Indian came out, and then some guy called me out of the blue and was like, hey, I got an Indian. It was like the first one that like besides factory riders had. And he's like, I got one and I want you to ride it. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, and I was up doing school in like New Brunswick, Canada. And I had to like jump in my truck, drive straight back, jump in that other truck and drive right to Texas. It was like 3 days. So I go to Texas and I go out and ride around around the parking lot. Man, this thing's slow. You know, it's like, just didn't feel weird. It was the FTR 750. And I'm like, man, something's wrong. And they all laugh and they're like, no, that's how good the motor is. You know, that's smooth. So I go out, and this is after riding a Ducati and KTM and a Triumph, all those other bikes. I go out and I qualify first. I'm like, holy shit, I know how to ride, and this thing's that good. And it's been a while, you know, since I jumped on a bike and just went out and qualified first. And we ended up getting third at night, past Brian Smith, last lap, you know, kind of went into turn one, bumped him a little bit, let him know I'm there. He got a little nervous going into 3, and I knew it, so he went low. And I just went high, and you know, just coming off of 4, I squared him up and got him at the line. And I was like, yeah. And everybody was so stoked for me. Like, I mean, it was the first time in my, like, I feel like in my career that, like, the paddock was, like, actually happy for me. And it was kind of man, it's kind of rewarding. Like,
Yeah.
having, you know, everybody just genuinely stoked to see you back, and you did good. And I made a clean pass, and I beat the Indian guys.
They were mostly stoked about
They
that.
were. They're like, yeah, you did good.
So that question is like, who wouldn't you want behind you? This guy right here,
It's Big John.
Big
Yeah.
John.
So then we go to the next race. I get asked to go to the last race of the year. It's out here in Paris, California, and same thing. I'm running second, you know, and we made a wrong tire choice, and the tire heated up. We should have put an 8 on. Everybody else put it. I put a 5 on. Everybody else put an 8 on, and it got hot. And like 4 laps to go, Breyer got up the inside of me, hit me so hard, like. He did the same, opposite, like hit me so hard. My head was like, boom, and just like ran me wide. He runs wide. It was like the stupidest move because it was a small little groove. I slipped wide. I ended up 5th. But it was still one of those deals. I'm like, shit, I can ride this thing, and I can chase down Jared Mees. You know, it's like I put myself in those situations. I'm like, I'm still that good. You know, I can do this. So that winter was, I had a whole deal lined up. I was so pumped. I had, you know, really good, the most paycheck I was ever going to make, lined up. Guy calls me, yep, it's done deal. 2 seconds later, this other guy calls me. He's like, hey, I got an FTR 750. You want to add it to your fleet of bikes? I'm just going to give it to you. Sweet. So I call the guy back, and it's not even 15. It's not even like 50 to an hour, 50 minutes to an hour later. I call him, hey, I got another bike to add to the fleet. Nah, sorry, we hired somebody else. It's like, you just called me and told me. He's like, yeah, I changed my mind.
What?
And I was like, what? And I was just like, didn't know what to say. I'm like, I was so high. Like, like mentally, that was the first time I ever been that excited about going racing. Like, and literally in an hour, just shot down. And I'm like, you know, how do you overcome some of this stuff sometimes? Like, you know, so many peaks and valleys, and riding all these bikes and doing this, and finally getting an offer, like a real one, like on the same motorcycle. Because my whole career, I never really rode the same motorcycle as everybody.
Yeah.
You know, I rode a Kawasaki when everybody was riding a Harley. I rode, you know, Triumph when everybody else was still riding Harleys and some Kawasaki's and this and that. And never was like on the same motorcycle and felt like I was competitive and I could go after a championship. And within an hour, just
Taken away.
taken away. And that was the time when I'm like, I was like, whatever, I'm F racing, I'm done. And then Nick Daniels called me because I'd been helping Dallas at the time. He's like, no, you're going racing. You're taking that one guy's bike. I'll do whatever I got to do. He was working for Richie Morris at that time. He's like, dude, you're going racing. We'll figure something out. But I didn't have the FTR at that time, so I rode Richie Morris's like Kawasaki at Daytona short track, doing good, shock blows. It was Daytona, you know, TT up on the banking, all that kind of stuff. And sure enough, like, you know, still having a great year. I was in podium position, I think, and my shock blew. So I'm like, whatever. So I went to the next race, and we had the Indian, and I go out and I win my heat race, you know. So I'm like, shit, I got this. Sure enough, it rains that night. So now we have a day race, and I ended up 5th or whatever. And it was just never caught a break. It just seemed like it was just never could catch a break. And I never thought of it that way. But just when you look back on them, like the opportunities I had, and when things were clicking, I literally just never caught a break. And it just like, it was tough. But that's what mentally I feel like I look at it, and I can joke about it now. And I don't go, man, what if? It's just, it's how the things were meant to be for me. And that's why I can give this information I do, and, you know, work with, you know, I usually don't talk about it much, but it's like working with Dallas and Nick brings it up all the time. He's like, you did so much for Dallas. And I pretty much did the opposite of what I did to get Dallas certain points in his career. And like, I am really proud of that. And I wouldn't take anything all those hard times away to give like, Dallas has put it all together more than I ever have. So I don't even think about those championships that I could have won or whatever, because my little brother, basically, Dallas, like I think of him that way. He's done it. And I'm proud of him for that. And like, if that's what my role was, going through all these challenges to be able to feed somebody like him or all these other kids that I work with, that was my role. Like, and I'm okay with it.
That's cool. Do you think if you, at some point in there, like, something came up to the point where you could have been on Briar's bike or Jared's bike, do you think you could have accomplished what you wanted to? Like, do you feel like you have that in you, like, to be one of those guys?
I do. It's tough because I feel, it's like I ride a dirt bike. I mean, I haven't rode with those guys, but I know how good I am on a dirt bike and who I ride with and my capabilities, whether it's in the woods or on a motocross track or a Supermoto track, like, riding Supermoto pavement with you, like not after riding for a while. Like, I know how I can adapt to situations and I know I can apply it. It's just, it's tough when you look at it and go, man, I wish I had the opportunity. I wish I was riding the same bike at certain days. But then again, it's like, it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think it turns out for you, you're in the problem with motorcycle racing is just not sustainable anymore. Right. So even though, you had all that shit kind of luck, it allowed you to go do other things that now in the long run, you're in a better spot where these guys are now facing kind of stuff you had to deal with a long time ago. Yeah. So I agree. I mean, I think that's...
You learn how to build an ecosystem.
Yeah.
Right? So...
Yeah, for sure.
And like right now, I think we can all agree that it's going to get real tough, especially in AFT.
Yeah.
A
lot of guys are looking for rides and trying to figure something out and trying to build it. And it's like, I see it and I feel bad, just for the whole paddock, because it's like, I want everybody to do good. And finally, for once, I'm actually like, I wouldn't say high man on the title pole as far as like, I don't know. I have a
great
good
deal.
program. I'm in control of it. I can make the calls. I'm getting a pretty nice paycheck. I can create more opportunities for myself. If I wanted to quit tomorrow, I have a job with the company. It's like they have offered me stuff. So I feel like I'm in a good spot. Like, I'm proud of it because it's going through all these struggles and stuff. But it's like one of those deals where I'm like, now it's like the challenge is like, I want to make this real Enfield fast enough, to do it the job. Am I going to win a championship? Probably not. On this thing, is Royal Enfield okay with that? Yeah, because they just want to be out there. But that's the cool thing is I'm trying to build that and like, create these opportunities and kind of get creative, like flat track has now taken me worldwide, like to India. Did I ever think I was going to go to India? Did I even know where India was? Like, I quit school in 9th grade.
Yeah.
I did 9th grade and then I quit after that. Like, because I was a professional motorcycle racer, I was factory KTM.
Yeah.
I quit. And I didn't even know where India was until like, I signed the deal and I'm like, where's India? I'm like, oh, I have to go to India? I'm like, shit, I have to fly over some countries that we, think are really, know that are really bad. I'm like, whatever. And, but it's created these opportunities for me. And it's like, and I just keep seeing more, it's like, I almost don't have enough time in the day. Like, it's like, I want to do so much and the opportunity is there where I see other people. It's like, I can't create an opportunity. I can't do this. And it's like, I'm kind of creating what I want. When I want it, how I want it in this opportunity right now. And if it like tomorrow it changed, I know certain things I would do now, to still create those opportunities because I went through those hard times and I know what I want. And I know there's a little bit of balance in certain things in my life. So it's been a journey.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's nuts. Now going back to like series and Dallas a little bit. Now, also bringing in some of the bumping and stuff like that. We've seen some calls and some stuff go down at a few races that me personally, I don't think is, the right move. Like I think racing should be racing in some, nobody wants to harm anybody, but like one of the calls that I think in question is the Dallas Bruner call.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to say
No,
how you feel about it,
I
but
think
like
Dallas agrees
like
that it
to wake up and
wasn't
see
right.
him.
You know, like he didn't. I don't think he would have never thought that's how it would have happened.
Yeah.
Because that's not. It wasn't your typical thing. So I think there's definitely. It's interesting how calls are being made right now. The people that are running flat track, didn't watch it, years ago.
Yeah.
There's certain people that respect levels and things is different than these like back in, I feel like the early 2000s, like when I kind of first got in the flat track and stuff was happening. It's like guys that were running it, even though if they didn't do a great job as far as certain aspects, they were ex-racers that understood like certain passes and opportunities and how things went. And I just feel like it's not there. I think that's kind of the lacking part. And but it's, obviously they're trying to keep people safe, but it's also like they're putting us in those situations. They're racing
Like
Springfield
short track.
Like
It's the
I
last
remember
lap.
getting booted off that track.
Yeah.
Like if I probably should have crashed, but I got hit so hard and I still saved it. But like I was in 7th place, so like nobody saw it.
Like a barn burner, like
Yeah.
it's supposed to. So yeah, I think that's definitely something, a little bit in question. The Breyer Jared thing, maybe too. I think it's a little bit, but not going into specifics. But like obviously the Indian coming in and the series getting a bunch of money and people finally making a lot of money. You had Indian in the top 10 essentially making enough contingency to race motorcycles professionally. Yep. Some making it very good, some less. People on Harley making money. To see it kind of go away again. What are your thoughts on how things are progressing? And I know how I feel. I feel like we're going to be all back in vans and homemade motorcycles instead of carbon fiber and this, that, and the other. Do you think that's the right way for dirt track? And do you really have a comment on it? You've got Royal Enfield, you've got all these manufacturers that are now kind of leaving. Is that, how do you keep dirt track? How do you keep everybody in? Like, is that
I don't know,
something you think about? Or
I do. I think about it all the time because what I see is with some of that, they're so reliant on Indians' money and this and that. It was kind of like when we raced Supermoto, it was such a high because Red Bull was just dumping money into it. And when Red Bull pulled out, there was nothing, like there was no money for the series to happen. And then the sport just went away. Like, Supermoto went away because of one sponsor pulled out. Indian came in and like brought a lot to the table. They were sponsoring races, sponsoring the series, sponsoring races, sponsoring riders, contingencies. It was like they dumped a bunch, and it was good for those 3 years. And what was the quote the other day? It was like, hard times create hard people. Like that whole thing. It's like good times create weak people. It was good times, and you didn't have to think about. You didn't have to be going above and beyond the sponsors. You didn't have to be. For those guys,
it was a gravy train.
They were happy enough, and not saying that because I don't know everybody personally. I just see it that way. That like now it's all taken away, and it's like, well, you missed all these times you could have been making calls and trying to be a little bit better. Maybe not burn. I'm not really talking about anybody in particular. It's just like if you burned an opportunity, that opportunity is gone.
Yeah.
And like if it's good, it's good, it's good. And then like that happens, like it's tough to see. But it's one of those deals where, I think some of the opportunities went away because people weren't staying up with trying to be their best on all aspects. And I kind of realized that for me, like I had a pretty good career, like all these races and opportunities because I never burned anybody. Like I kept everybody happy. I thanked them over and over again. I was super appreciative. If I called anybody, even to this day, I probably could get on a bike to ride. If I needed a bike for a weekend, somebody would probably give me a bike, even if I rode from before or not. Like I just always had these nice relationships with somebody. I see it now where certain people have, treated me a certain way because I was a racer, maybe I was aggressive, maybe I wasn't in the clique and all this kind of stuff. And now I have opportunities to give back. And it's like, you remember that time you might have said something about me or whatever. It's not that I'm going to hold that against anybody or something, but I just kind of see that. And like, it's in all sports, like after being around certain people and talking to certain people, whether it's motocross or GNC off road, or because I became good with friends with like Ryan Sipes, and we talk about all their disciplines and stuff, and then watching road racing. It's all how you treat people, and those opportunities can go away like that. And I've dealt with that, and I've seen that. Even with that guy taking that ride away, I never once really said anything bad. Most people don't even know the story because I didn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, all right.
Who was it?
That was the Cool Beth team.
Oh,
Yeah, so maybe I had a little chip on my shoulder when I might have bumped into Cool Beth a little too hard at the race, and he then turned around and punched me in the back of the head. But
okay.
I was like, yeah, I'm in like a wrecking ball.
All right.
And I did. I think I took out like 5 people. Whoops.
Dude, I remember that. Like, kind of staying on, I just want to stay on the AFT thing a little bit. All these new bikes, new technology has come to the forefront, right? Racing's gotten extremely fast in dirt track. Track prep hasn't really stayed with the times, especially now. I mean, we've gone from really good tracks. Even when I came back, there were some amazing tracks. Like the year of COVID, all those half miles were decent at night. They developed a really good. A lot of it had a lot of rain.
Yep.
What do you think?
COVID caused rain.
No, but
I'm
like
joking.
during the COVID, we only raced half
Yeah,
miles
I'm
mainly. We
joking.
didn't race a lot of miles, so it was like kind of like a half mile a year.
Yeah.
It was really good for the Harley. What do you think like is going on with this year? Let's just be real. The tracks have fucking sucked.
Yeah.
Like everywhere.
No, they did.
Like everywhere. Like watching on TV,
And
they suck.
I'm, for me, I have a lot of, I've been a track prep guy. I work on tracks everywhere I go, and then I've been hired to work for AFT, and I've been there, and I've like seen how there's so many chefs in the kitchen, and think back at Texas the year I did the track prep at Texas, and then I did the Wild Horse track. I helped with that big TT. But Texas,
That place was sick.
yeah, Texas though, it rained. You couldn't drive a vehicle on it. It was so soft. So basically, it was like I came to them and said, "Hey, we have to do it this way. Like we have to basically get it as smooth as possible, let it bake and get hard." And it's like you think of Play-Doh. Play-Doh. If you leave out, the top gets hard, and you can't put your finger in it. So I was like, "That's what we have to do. If we watered it, it's just going to soften it up, and then it's going to get rough again." I said, but at nighttime, I said, it might suck during the day a little bit, but we get it hard. At nighttime, the moisture will come up. There's so much moisture, and it'll be epic. So I've spent like hours rolling that track on a roller, just packing it in, getting it smooth, working from the top down. Like I understand, what a rider wants. When I'm wheel packing the track, and make sure there's not a line in the track.
Yeah.
A lot of times we go to these tracks, they wheel pack, and the guys running the cars don't know how important it is. Like they're car guys, and they'll just put a big rut in it. So I like worked at it, and everything's going good. And then it was getting a little dusty. So I said, hey, like, let's just, I hate the sweeper, but I said, let's sweep the one part of the track. As soon as the lights come down, the moisture's going to come up. So they were like, nope, we don't have time. So then there was a crash because they didn't sweep the one part of the track, and there was a crash. And then Cole Zabala crashed. Whatever.
Yep.
Normal.
Happens.
So we were sitting in a delay, and there was a couple people yelling down, "We need to water the track. We need to water the track." I'm like, you cannot water the track. It's going to get rough. And basically, they mandatory made us water the track. The Super Twins go out. The track got super rough, super quick. And then I had to go fix it, because then we had to wheel pack it and get it going again. Then, we waited. Track got hard. Moisture come up. Track was the best track of the year. Like they sent me texts from like Shayna and all these people that, usually are pretty critics on certain tracks and stuff. That was the best track of the year. Blah blah blah. Tell Johnny he did a good job. It was cool that like they wrote to them and said like, hey, tell him a good job. But it was one of those deals like they didn't know the backside of like how much backlash we were getting the whole time, and there were so many chefs saying stuff, and one was Michael Locke, and he doesn't know how to prep a track, and he's saying water the track, and we're just like, no, and he's like, I'm the boss, and it was like, okay, we'll water the track. This is what's gonna happen. So it's like, it's kind of like finding those roles for certain people.
Like
last year,
a
they didn't-
balance.
Last year, they brought Smith in. They thought that it was going to be something to do with the track. I don't know what his role was in certain things, but it was like they can never come to an agreement on anything. And I know a little bit too much, and
Yeah.
don't want to piss them off, but it was like they just never had, complete communication. They didn't have a process. It seemed like it was like when we got to Lacomia,
Yeah.
the inside of the track's flooded out, and they're like, well, we couldn't dig a trench because, they knew the rain was coming, but they're like, oh, we couldn't dig a trench because we couldn't mess up the infield of the track. The track wouldn't allow us. I was like, well, when you went and looked at the track, you should have seen that, and you should have said, well, we're not coming there to race motorcycles. If we get a chance of rain, this place is going to flood, and it's not going to be a usable track. That's kind of stuff that, like, me as a promoter or a track guy would see right away. And if they had somebody, religiously, the same person, would go, yeah, this is the reason why we can't run here. If it rains or this situation, you point them out right away.
Yeah.
Not
I feel
not trying to deal with it the day of it after it rains. Go, well, we told them if it rained, this was going to happen. It's like, well, then you tell me you're not coming there. You figure out a different solution.
Yeah, I feel like, road racing is kind of, I mean, the hard part is like everyone looks like MotoGP or like, FIM, IRTA, Dorn, like these guys, and there's so much money behind it, but it would just take really one guy who's not a promoter or an advertiser or whatever that either has raced or whatnot to go and check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I love everybody that works at AFT. And
100%.
They had a Supercross guy the last couple of years as a track prep guy. Like, he built Supercross tracks. They're like, oh, well, he can work with dirt. It's not the same. Like,
Yeah.
like it's I can prep a motocross track pretty good. I can bake a jump pretty good. It only has to be so good because we're riding knobbies. We're riding twins with flat track tires and the speeds and all this stuff. It has to be perfect. Like, you can't have one slick spot. You can't have, you can't just fill in a hole and think it's going to be good.
It just gets taken right out.
There's a process behind it. And like, I think that's been the toughest thing the last few years is just a continuous guy. And then we go to these certain tracks that, well, they prep the track and this guy preps the track and this and that. So it makes it a little tough even for them because it's like, well, they have a track prep guy. And then now it's two different people. Mm-hmm. And I was just talking to somebody. I was like, I wish they only had 10 races and 10 good races that they controlled, X, Y, and Z. And it was all done and it was managed that way.
I mean,
instead of
it's
18
crazy.
races.
Like, now that I've done the select rounds with Wally last year, I don't know if I'll ever do a full season ever again.
Yeah.
Like, doing Kentucky, Springfield, like, I might just be a mile guy and, go to like Port Royal and some of them tracks that I know that are good.
Yeah.
They've got some good tackiness and we can do well at, but also that they're pretty safe. Like, it's pretty hard to fuck up kind of deal. Like, all those tracks are pretty banging. And I'll be honest, like, after doing the Wally thing, I'm like I don't want to go to Lima, even though the track is so sick and it's so sick, probably on that KTM hanging it out. But it's like, I should just wreck shit,
Oh, yeah.
And like some of these other tracks that just get smoked. It's, I think I've, maybe drank the champagne a little bit too much now, and I like to be clean. I'm sick of cleaning my fucking boots.
I know.
and
I felt like the dirty guy here this weekend.
dude's taking his shoes off.
I
Walking
take
in.
the shoes off to come up to the lounge. Which is like, you don't have to take your shoes off. I'm like, no, I do. I was playing in dirt all day. I'm not being a road racer. I'm not a road racer at a road race facility. I'm a dirt guy.
Sorry, guy.
I mean, so like last thing before I know kind of harping on this, but like, do you think there's a big divide? I mean, honestly, there is. Like, there feels like there's a big divide between riders and, say, the series now. How do we get that back and get kind of a flow? You're never going to have it perfect, right? Because like at some level, it's just, black and white. It's, it's oil and fucking, I don't even know.
It's tough because I've tried to be a promoter, at races and stuff, and I see how everybody has an opinion. Everybody has something to say. Now it's even worse because of social media.
Amplified.
It amplifies just on certain things. And then, everybody can contact everybody at a certain time. So Jared Mees can be texting Brian Smith on race day and getting insight or doing this. Not saying he does.
Yeah.
But it's all readily available. And it makes it just like, it's tough to know who to trust, with certain things. And it's like, same thing with all the riders. Like, it's tough to you know where everybody's at, you know, with certain things. Like nobody seems happy at the track.
It just kind of, it's weird because like in the paddock itself, everybody's probably the closest they've ever been. Like as far as what I mean by riders, more riders now are buddies than I feel like there's ever been.
Yeah,
you know,
except for
everyone's
me. I
well.
don't think I'm friends with anybody. Really.
I mean, everybody wants to come to your track. You just charge too much. But
I let everybody ride for free half the
so just messing, John.
Except for
But like,
James still hasn't forgotten that one time you made him rent that Husky from him.
Yeah, that was a rebirth of his career.
100%.
So it was worth the $150 that I charged him.
yeah, it was okay. That was a good time actually.
And then he beat the shit out of it. Robbie Bobby's. It was
Come
a white
on,
husky,
dude.
white husky at a red nasty track.
I took care of that thing. But it's
Your
like,
standards.
you know, how do you like? I feel like everybody's as close as they've been as the riders. The series is as close as they've been, you know. But it's just a wall, and I don't know how you fix that.
Yeah,
It's like,
I don't know either. It's
do they have to be? I mean, I always go to BSB. You know, I don't know. I feel like Stuart Higg does a really good job over there on making calls by the book.
Yeah.
There's no, like, it doesn't matter who you are. Shaky Byrne, Bradley Ray, you know, Valentino Rossi. You know, you do something, dude, you're disqualified.
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a fuck who you are. And I feel like there's, you know, we don't have that backbone guy. Whereas like Higgs, I feel like doesn't care if you don't like him, but everyone kind of respects him because he makes the call, whether you're Honda, Yamaha, whoever. And I feel like we don't have that in dirt track at the moment, even though we've got so many good guys. Like I've known all those guys since I was, you know, super little, right? So it's tough, but it's all about trying to make the sport better, right? So
No, it is. It's tough because it's like, you know, flat track's such a loose racing, so there's so many variables.
yeah.
The ways of, you know, tracks and situations and holes and the speeds, and like road racing is pretty, you get a lot of the same scenarios that happen. Flat track, it seems like every weekend it's something different. And it's because one weekend there's a saucer on the track in the middle of the track to make you ride here. You know, it's like the Bruner thing. You know, just going back to it, like, well, they had a saucer out so far on the track, and like the way you want to cross the track, like if it was a hay bale, you couldn't hit it. Like Dow's couldn't have done that because there was a saucer, and it's like, okay, don't go across this saucer, don't do this. It just like makes it tough because there's so many variables, all these different tracks. That's hard to make those calls. It's really hard. And then it's like hard to also then race hard, because like then you're like on eggshells, like, what if I do this? And it's like, what's gonna happen? You don't know. And it's like, it's tough. I think the flat track thing should just be a bunch of outlaws like it used to be.
I mean, because like you look at
Supercross, be an outlaw,
Supercross,
don't be an outlaw. Don't be a part of it. You know.
yeah, but I mean, like you
Go
look at
back to
Supercross,
bagger
and you rarely. I mean, maybe this year they just started like probation and penalties and fines and stuff like. I mean, they've had it before, but I mean, Supercross is pretty gnarly. You know, when it comes to passing. I mean,
yeah, I mean the block passes. I feel like they also did get away with it more back then, and that made it exciting. I mean, like there was also a level of respect built, you know, based off of how they passed, how they raced. You know, you look at Stewart and Chad Reed and all those. You know, they had a rivalry. They rode hard, and I don't think they got penalized back then for it.
yeah.
You know, as much.
Now it's like pretty crazy. Like Barsha got penalized, and then
And
I just saw Cincerello tweeted today he got penalized
For peeing.
outside
I think that's
of a porta potty
insane.
at the races.
My favorite thing is he's like, I'm just trying to get ahead of this. Like $1,000 fine for peeing outside the porta potty
Yeah,
right
it's
before
tough.
the
It's-
race. You know,
I don't get it. You know, it's like I probably have, you know, obviously different views on it because I'll race anybody hard,
yeah.
obviously, and
I mean,
But that's-
your intention's never to hurt anybody.
no, it's just I want to race as
You wanna
hard
win.
as I can. Like it's just I'm gonna go in trusting that I can handle the situation, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And I just grew up getting knocked down so many times, and just being used to it. That's like it's hard. So it's kind of tough to see. Like obviously we want to race. I think it's tough that everybody's, but you know, really good friends and hanging out with each other too, because you know it's almost like it then creates gangs. You know, if something does happen, it's like, you know, like for me,
gang wars at the flat track
you know, it's like I'm like, man, if I run into somebody, I have nobody, none of these guys backing
Nobody
me
got
up.
my back.
Yeah.
Call me, I got your back.
It's like, but if like, you know, somebody bumps into somebody and something happens, it's like, oh no, it's cool. Like, you know, everybody thinks it's cool. Then it's cool. Then, you know, Kevin at AFT is like, it's cool. But if
Yeah.
Johnny does something and Johnny doesn't have 10 people behind him going, it was all right. It was an all right pass. It could take 2 people that don't like somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. I guess it's always probably been that way, but it just seems like it's a little bit more. And now there's cameras everywhere. Everybody's got every angle, every view. So it's like,
Can't hide.
it feels like you're racing on
It's also
eggshells.
tough too. Like it was pretty interesting. I was listening to Gypsy Tales with Barsha on the way down here, and that was one of the things he talked about was like how difficult it is. Like with the Anderson thing with him, like he cleaned him out and got this whole big thing about it. It was all this backlash. But then you go to the next race and Supercross is blasting it across the big screen.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just paid this huge fine, but then you guys are gonna go make a shitload of money off promoting it. And it's like I feel like all the series are doing
It's
that now.
everything. And
It's
Everybody-
like, what do you
they
want?
want
Do you want
it.
the action or do you not?
They want the drama.
Well, it's like
but
Kublev punched me in the back of the head. Like they played that so many times. It's like I get it. Like
we should have got it and put it up here. It would've been good.
I feel like F1 does it the
and
best.
he told me to go back to my
Yeah.
sugar shack and all kinds of stuff.
No,
I'm like,
that's
what the hell is a
amazing.
sugar shack?
That's amazing. That's so good.
It was
King
a
of
good-
cools.
It was a good time. Lost his cool, he said.
Cool. That's cool. That's a good tagline. What do you think? I don't know. Like I did the flat track thing with you, obviously, which was terrifying. I sucked at it, but it was still
It
is
sucked.
Dude, Sturgis, Buffalo Chip,
Sturgis
my dog.
made the main dude.
Dude, if you would have just got that start.
I know. But either way, I mean, it seems like a hard thing to combat how dangerous it is as well. Part of it, you know.
I think I talked about it at the school, like, you know, even today and other times, it's like I try to get people not to, you know, they have to look where they're going. Because with flat track, if you look what's around you,
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying. And it's like I've blocked it out. You know, it's like I know the risk. I know what I'm doing. It's the sport. It's the tracks we go to. It's like they're not going to rebuild 15 new tracks to make them super safe. It's a wild sport they're in.
Especially where we're riding at now.
I know, and I remember taking it was cool. I took Blake Baggett to a flat track race in Florida, just an outlaw race, and it was Lake City,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and there's a concrete wall around the whole thing, and you know, Supercross guy walks up and he's like, "Fuck that," you know, and like 2 seconds later, a kid on 250 slides out, goes in the bales, crashes, picks himself back up. He's like, "This stuff's insane." I'm like, "Well, what you do is insane. Like you're whipping it over 65, 75 foot triples and going 20 feet in the air. Like it's pretty wild." He's like, "No, dude, like this is insane. Like what you're doing." And I think it's obviously a perspective, you know. I think driving on the road's crazy scary. You know,
Yeah.
like I got to jump in the truck tomorrow morning and drive back to Florida, and it's like I'm more scared to do that than ride around a racetrack.
Yeah, I guess my question is, what do you think? Is there anything that they could do different or could be done differently? Like, obviously, you're teaching people how to do this sport, so it's kind of like I always think about that. It's hard to you take some kind of responsibility, right? Because you're like introducing people to this thing, and obviously you love it. You want people to love it as well, but it's you also know inherently they're putting themselves at this
Something
risk.
there.
Like the tracks you teach at, things like that, are not the same tracks you're going racing at. There's most of the time, right? So
I try to
it's-
make it safe as I can, but also I talk about those variables and I try to explain it in the sense to try to make them the safest riders obviously I can to, if they're in that situation. And it's like it's tough, you know, like you know, I look at Dallas as my own kid. Like he's like a little brother to me, you know, or a kid. You know, it's like I was his mechanic in 2018 before I did that Indian thing. I was actually his mechanic his rookie season or the second year, something like that.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
I was his mechanic.
Yeah, Lima. Right. Was his debut?
Yeah, Lima.
Yep.
He won Peoria. I cried.
Yep.
You know, like I literally cried because I was so happy for him, kid. But when he got out on the track for the first time, and I was just thinking about this because Brian Deegan was just posted something about it, like how terrifying it was to see his kid out there. You know, like finally be out there on the track with all those guys, the big jumps, knowing the risk, and it's like Dallas was one of the first guys that I like sat back and I'm like, wow, like because I was watching him like a hawk. I was worried anything fall off his bike. I became that mechanic, but I became like the coach, and I'm just like, yeah, hey Dallas, why don't you ride this line instead of that line that's all the way top of the track? I'll make your bike work down there. You know, like don't go up there. it's tough to see, and it's because you know it, but it's like that's why you got to be 100% focused when you're in it, and those variables are there no matter how you look at it. You know, the odd shit that can happen just going down a straightaway on a super bike. Well, you have a front brake, and one bolt can come out, and that's a whole different variable. You know, like something bad can happen in a straight line, and so it's like just trying to be as prepared as you can, and like that's why, for me, you know, like I feel like I have a lot of knowledge and with not just the racing aspect, but the mental side of things, going through all these challenges and stuff. And I try to literally talk about a little bit of everything in my school, even if the slide school, the guys really don't need to know the mental side of thing. I just throw it in there because it's like, it makes me feel better that I'm like, hey, you know how risky this stuff is and how dangerous this is. That's why you don't look here and you do this. And I don't really sugarcoat it either. I bring up some people are probably like, you probably shouldn't say that. And I'm like, no, I'm going to say it because they need to hear it. Like, chill out. Like, stop riding like an asshole. Like, calm down. This is bad. Mm-hmm. We need to, like, relax because this can happen.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I did it that there was not any of the road race guys, some random guy that came into the school was just loose. And I'm like,
Rich Melman.
I'm probably gonna have to stop you. Like, if you don't calm down.
We have that talk with him every time he goes out on the road race track.
No, it wasn't it was no road race guy, so you're good. But
Dude,
it's
he
just
just
like
loves it.
It just, you know, reminding, you know, I try not to sugarcoat that either, and just, you know, it's dangerous. So there's really, I feel like as a sport, the only thing you can do is make the track better. What happens if you make the track better?
They go faster.
You go faster on the track. You know. Mm-hmm. So there's really, to me, there's nothing you can really do. It's part of racing.
Yeah.
It's what we do.
Yeah, going back and talking about, you know, the Dallas thing, how your first race, it was kind of like when I came back and I was in Europe, I came back to watch Wells at Daytona when he won. And I remember, like, in the circle, just doing circles, like, till I was dizzy, just like, come on, let's do it. And it's weird feeling that, kind of bringing that up. Wellsy, he's your teammate. Did people know that?
Not yet.
Oh, my bad.
No, that's good.
I was
Okay.
going to go there
That's
next.
good.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
That'll
Well,
be good. Yeah, we put Wellesley on the bike.
so what was that decision like, and how did that kind of come about? Because he's kind of have a little bit of a rough road here lately. We all know he's one of the most talented riders, I think.
Yeah.
Personally, I think he's one of, if not one of the most talented riders up there with Breyer, with you guys. And he does things on a motorcycle that I look at and go, dude, that's crazy. But kind of had a little bit of a rough road. What was the thought process on trying to bring him on board as your teammate?
I think that's pretty much it. Like, I've been in a situation. He's always been respectful to me. You know, always like thanked me for like the stuff I did training with, you know, like working with him as a young kid. Like, I've worked with him a bunch, you know, with the Rod Academy days, and he's always asked for advice. And he's, you know, when he rode for Essison, I was helping him that year a little bit too. And I know the talent that he has, and it's like, I know he's capable of it, you know, and it's like, I felt the opportunity was needed. You know, it was me granting that wish, you know, for somebody that needed
that
the
second
opportunity.
chance,
yeah,
maybe
second chance, because I've been there and I wanted it, and he wanted it. You know, he's like, I want it. Like, I don't care. I don't care if I get paid. I want to do this. Like, I want this opportunity, and I want to work hard for you, and I want to be, you know, I want to learn from you. And it's like, you know, he could be just saying stuff to make me feel good.
Wellesley doesn't do that.
No, but
You
it's
I mean, he's down at your property now.
Yeah, he's camped out there. He's riding moto. I gave him a moto bike, and you know, he's running because he doesn't like bicycles, I guess, or you just haven't given him a bicycle yet.
Dude, I gave him two. Like, he sold them.
Sold
No,
them for money.
no, they were old. We're working on it.
Dude, he's always selling a bike, dude. He sells more bikes than anybody I know.
That guy,
He's pretty good at flipping.
dude, he's
He flips
amazing.
them, like,
Dude, I
daily
post
basis.
something and it's like flops instantly. I'm like, Wellesley, I'll throw this up on your page, brother. I'll throw you a little commish.
Yeah. No, it was the opportunity. I think hands down, it was just somebody that was that dedicated to like try to prove to me, you know, not anybody else. He was like, I want to prove to you that I can do this, and that means a lot to me. And in this position as a you know, I would say race manager, team manager.
You're Jackie Moon.
Yeah, I'm racing, and I'm going to be
That's who you
racing
are.
him. But I think that means a lot to me, and like in the sense of, yeah, if we're on the same bike and I can make him go faster because he's got maybe more talent than me left, you know, like maybe I used all mine up, you know, I'll make him go faster. Like,
Yeah.
that's my goal. Like,
Yeah.
I want to see this bike. I want to see the program succeed. And I want to, show that I made also a good choice, so I'm going to put everything I can into
Yeah,
making sure
because it's probably a lot. There's a lot riding on that as well.
yeah, it's a big, building a team now is, you guys know, it's like, it's been me the last, 3 years, and it's been the first year I was the mechanic, like I put the bike together the day before the
remember,
race. Like I picked it up at JFK, put it together and raced at Williams Grove the next day, like kind of deal. The whole program itself, like it's been nonstop work and like an evolution. It's like I started as a mechanic, and the rider and the truck driver and the test guy and updating the guys on like parts we need. I mean, just did every aspect of it. Next year I got a little bit more help, got a mechanic, but still was like just, hands on everything. Last year I brought in a new mechanic, had to teach him, he's a supercross guy that I brought in and taught him the ropes, and I've learned so much about engine development and all this kind of stuff, where now it's like I finally, for once, since this program started, I'm a team manager, but I'm also like, I've let somebody else do the race engines. I have I think a really good mechanic for 2023. But I also have this other rider, and I have all these people that I have to manage now, but I don't have to do as much hands-on of actually working on the bikes and doing stuff. So it's, to be in that role and then finally for once feel like I'm actually a racer again, like not trying to do every aspect. I'm still doing a lot, but it's like I'm a racer again, and this is like a good feeling for me coming into the 23 season. Is like, there's the schedule looks pretty good. Even though we're combining classes, and I'll be racing with like the Jared Mees, the Breyer, all those guys, and again, I'm like excited more than ever to go racing. It's like I want to see where I stack up on damn Roy Enfield against these Indians, Daytona short track.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be something pretty cool because you've got some good. You were probably as fast as those guys, at least most of them, even on the Indians
we were
when they're
close that
good.
night.
It was pretty close on times.
And my bike was very early stages of development.
Yeah.
It was a turd.
Yep.
But it's kind of cool coming into the season with, for that, and then having Wellesley and having somebody else on the bike to get feedback. We all know Wellesley's sometimes he's got too much feedback.
Yeah.
But it's good because like I've had other guys, Cameron rode the bike and he didn't have much feedback. It was cool because he listened to me and he's like, dude, whatever you want to do it and I'll ride it. And that was good, but it didn't help me.
Yep.
I know I made changes and I saw feedback, but I wanted somebody to give me something. And I think Wellesley will kind of add that to the program. Probably have to calm him down a few times. Like, all right, just don't overthink it. Just ride the damn motorcycle.
Yeah. But I feel like that you're coaching and, having that experience probably will help him in that realm because it definitely seems like he needs somebody to be like, no, you're good. This is it.
Yep.
I don't feel like he's had that in the last.
It's been a little while.
Been a little while, maybe since even Richie Morris and, where somebody's just believed in him solely to go, hey, you're good. You got it. Yep. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be cool. Coming into the season, it's like I think both of us have good shots of winning. Daytona short track. He hasn't ridden the bike yet or anything, and I haven't ridden the new one either yet. But it's one of those deals where we both won Daytona short track.
You know how to do it.
He also rides TTs really well. He won over Cody Kopp at Peoria this year on pretty much a stock Honda. I think like went out and he won the semi.
Yeah,
and.
He's got it. He just needs to.
He can do it 1.5 miles, and he knows how to ride a mile. So it's like, I'm excited for him just as much as I'm excited. I'm excited for him, and it's a cool feeling to be in that position as like I said, a racer, but also a coach and a manager of the whole program. So,
how much development do you think you're gonna like? Do you think you're gonna make a big step with the bike?
I feel like we are. We got somebody that's been around the sport for a while that's kind of come into the program this year with the motors, and then also the chassis guy. He's won nationals, so I'm pretty excited about who I got, as a mechanic this year, and also got Roger, Roger full time,
my guy.
So my Brazilian buddy.
He's a legend.
He is.
For me, you're the best.
He's a legend in the moto side. Florida now moto stuff. Everybody, dude, you're Roy Enfield trucks at the race. I'm like, yeah, it's Roger. Oh, Roger's there. I need to talk to Roger. It's like he became like. He's my guy, and it's cool. So
My
I
guy too.
got a really cool group of people, this season, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, like I said, you kind of have a good ecosystem now where I feel like a lot of people don't know how to build that. And I feel it's tough because you say you went from, being the guy that does everything to give up those roles is pretty tough in itself. So I think.
And even to the point of like my property now, I've been away for 2 weeks. I had old Quail running,
Dude,
running equipment.
big dog.
Got people doing training schools, like Moto schools there. People have been flat tracking. Like, it's good to kind of be finally in that position where I've built stuff and I have this whole group of people that I can sit back and I can go do these trips and not worry about my place burning down or people not getting a chance to ride while I'm gone.
Yeah.
Stuff's flowing now, so it's all good.
What else you been working on this off season? I know you've been training a little bit harder than you have in the past too.
I know. You saw me at the gym. I was on the
at the
bicycle.
gym.
No way.
Every morning I was stretching
You're on
out
the
here.
program.
Well,
I feel
because like
good.
for a minute though, you like, what's the vegan thing like? You still vegan?
No,
Oh, you're off.
I'm off.
You finally beat it.
Oh no
finally
way.
beat
It
that.
was like a disease.
Yeah,
It cleared
as
up.
Pridmore says, hopefully I got it cleared up. Well, I got it cleared up. So.
What's it like? Because you were on it for a hot
It was
minute.
7 years.
So like, what's it like introducing some fat, juicy meat?
It's just good. It's just good.
Just putting that back in the program.
It's all of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
You
No,
went from like one end of the spectrum to Joe Rogan.
No, to Garrett Gerloff, big carnivore.
Did you see how much meat I ate tonight?
Yeah, like,
Yeah, carnivore
I
diet.
left like 6 pounds over there. You ate all of it.
Yeah. well,
Have you
I'm a
noticed a
grown boy.
difference though, like nutritional wise, like going vegan and then coming back, introducing meat? Like, have you noticed your body? Because I remember we used to talk like, maybe you lose a bit of muscle being vegan.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it because I'm gonna get hosed by people, but we both noticed when I went plant based, I lost a lot of like thick mass and stuff like that. Where did you notice that, or how has it been? Do you feel how you have more energy?
I think it's one of those things where it got to the point where it's just so stressful to be vegan. Like,
It's tough.
It's so hard to eat healthy on the road, all this kind of stuff as far as like plant-based only. So I think it was more of, I don't think it's really the diet because I think everybody's bodies reacts differently.
100%.
I think it's more just the stress level of traveling and trying to find this certain thing here and not doing this and not doing that. And it's like mentally, it just fries you.
Like you have to pretty much plan your day around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still do.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier to go to Whole Foods and get the stuff that I want. And, I've changed a lot about my diet, not just added meat. It's like fish oils and all these other things. and-
Alcohol.
I mean, alcohol's good for you.
Yeah, just messing.
Moderation. I got an alcohol sponsor, so I gotta say it's good, right?
Good.
But no, it's just as I'm getting older, as
Yeah.
Corey points out all the time, gray hair and stuff. I became more aware of my body and what I kind of feel like I need, and I'm trying a lot more stuff than I ever have. Like I was like, yeah, plants, and I felt good. Like I'd go on bicycle rides and I feel good. I just I could go a long time. It's just like I don't feel like I was strong. It's like I had the endurance. I just didn't have like the pure strength. And obviously with flat track, you don't have to have the endurance. It's like 8-minute races.
Yeah. But it's revved.
Yeah.
Like
No,
it's
it is
full
for
out.
sure. So it's I think it's just a good balance, and that's what I've been really working on is a good balance of what I need, and I'm still learning. It's like every day I'm listening to different books and reading stuff and Googling this and trying the different like I said, vitamins or
You big into-
magnesium and like just everything I can think of. Like I want to be a superhuman.
Are you
So
big
I'm working
into Are you big into cold plunge?
Super John.
I've done it. I like it. And I feel benefits of it.
Yeah.
I'm not religious with it.
Okay.
I've done the whole like break the ice, jump in, when it's freezing cold outside,
Yeah.
or there's like in Claremont where I'm at, where all the Supercross guys are and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. There's a bicycle shop that has a hot and cold tank that I do feel the benefits. Like I ran a marathon the one day about a year ago, and my legs cramped up, and I was like, couldn't even get into the tub. And I started doing the back and forth, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. And like, I felt really good the next day. Like I did not think I was going to recover that well. And I think it was that contrast.
That's interesting.
It was really good.
My guy had me do ice plunge the first time the other day. We did it with Phelan. It was pretty good.
Dude, that video of Phelan
Dude, he
was
didn't even get in.
dude, that
Didn't even
dude,
get
and you
He got his thighs.
You know what he started doing now because his foot's been hurting him? He just sits on the edge of it, just dips his foot in up to the ankle.
That guy. I did a
He's a piece of
cryo. I did a
work.
cryo treatment tank the other day. It was.
I've
like,
done cryo. That's pretty cool.
That
Yeah.
was cool.
I
But you
think
got the
it's-
mitts
It feels
and
like a
stuff.
lot of money for 3 minutes.
I think it's horrible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't.
I'd rather be in the like
Yeah, submerged.
in Goggins.
Yeah, breathing through it.
fully in it.
Wim Hof.
Yeah.
Dude,
breathing.
I'm a big Wim Hof guy.
No, that's good. It's,
Ice man.
I think all of it's good. I think it's all just perspective too. Like, do we
Yeah.
really need all this
No.
to go fast on a motorcycle? No.
We all overtrain, most of us, I would say, for actually riding.
Yeah.
You know, in my opinion.
No, I think you guys do.
So
I'm like right there.
Yeah.
I'm not overdoing it. I'm
yeah,
just like right
Big
there.
John.
Just trying
What,
moderation.
Why'd you go vegan in the first place?
It was actually with my ex-wife. We were trying to have kids, and she couldn't get pregnant, so she went fully raw. And like 6 months after trying for 2 years, she got pregnant and was like,
Wow.
all right, well, I'll support this. So did it for a while, and it was like when we moved, you know, I really went that way when we actually moved to Florida. Which
You did a
was
blueberry farm too,
almost
right?
8 years ago. Yeah, there's blueberries there.
Still?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
And you know, I stuck with it, you know, but once you lose your chef, you're like, oh, I'm not doing this no more. So we, you know, that's what I changed my mind, changed my program.
Do
I
you
went to
think
Brazil, and you know,
You can't be vegan
could
there,
not
dude.
not eat
Schmeat
cow.
in Brazil is just a little too good?
Yeah, all of it's good. So, all of it.
Hey, puppy.
Oh man, what do you think? Because I remember like when I came down, obviously you were still married and vegan at the time, very much so, and just kind of like being an outsider, like coming into the flat track world, like living a little bit at your place, just seeing how people kind of react to you and your kids, and you know the whole deal. Like you kind of had a stigma almost around you at the time, just from that whole thing being kind of progressive and vegan.
Yeah,
and
everything
like,
was weird. It's like the same thing with my shipping containers, but
Yeah.
they became cool. Vegan became cool now,
Yeah.
you know, in ways. It's kind of hit its peaks and valleys. You
Yeah.
know? But yeah, it's like, I don't know. It kind of comes back to everything. I just really don't care what people think. So I just was doing my thing. Like, yes, I care. I obviously love people and I care what they think. But it's like, if I'm trying something to better myself, or I'm doing something to, you know, create an easier environment, I don't care what people are going to judge me for.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the container thing about? I know you lived. Did you bring the container to Florida with you?
No, I built it at one track and I moved it from one track to my property now. So
That's where your sister lives.
that's where Jenny lives. I have multiple containers on the property. It became a little container village at the track. We got bunkhouses for people, you know, bathrooms, laundry room. We got a kitchen now I built out of one, bike storage out of another one. Finally built a half decent non-container race shop with a little loft above that.
I saw the loft. That's
Yeah.
nice.
Where are you staying right now?
In the loft. I'm easy. Like I, you know, throughout my career, and like I've always wanted to help. I always want to create opportunities. It's kind of whatever's easiest for people, and I gave up my house for my sister to live in, basically, so she could be in Florida and start, you know, her new journey down there. And I moved back to the back, and I'm super happy. Like just waking up, I look out my deck, and I look right at my flat track in the front. Turn to the right, and my motocross track's over there. I mean, it really doesn't get any better than that for now. If I meet somebody and they're like, "You live where?" So
So you are divorced now. We kind of got to get into at least a little bit because I'm sure there's some ladies out there chasing after Big John. What's the deal? Where are you at with that? What's it like kind of going from that whole stage of your life being, you know, racing, married, and then having kids and doing that whole deal, having the whole family at the track, to where you're at now with it?
you learn a lot. You know, I learned a lot through going through what I went through, and same thing. It's like actually wouldn't change a thing. You know, like wouldn't change going through what I went through and what I learned from it. I have two beautiful kids that obviously are just wild, long hair, blonde hair kids that run around and enjoying life. And I still share the property with her. You know, it's big enough property. She's up front. We're in the back. We have our own driveway. We do our thing, and it's good. You know, it's like you learn a lot about yourself, and I have in this last like year, really. You know, I had some good times. You know, I had some good times. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, you got to.
and you know, it was one of those deals. I was married for 11 years and
Back on the market.
back on the market, and it's definitely a journey, you know, to kind of be that, you know, 30, 31, 32 years old, like single again, trying to figure out, you know, what you actually want, you know. So couple say I'm too picky. I just have what I want. I know what I want now. It's like same thing with my racing stuff now and my training and how I want to live life. It's like I don't know what I want a little bit more than I just going with the flow and just like I'll just, you know, create a relationship and end a relationship. It's like you get into it and you realize real quickly it's not what you want and you try to get out of it, you know.
Now, like we asked this question on the last pod, Joe, do you think early on stages girls are a distraction for young racers and stuff like that? Or do you think, you know, we see a lot of young supercrossers, married, kids, stuff like that? I mean, what do you think about that?
No, I mean, I had a girlfriend my whole Supermoto career. The tough thing was she was in college.
Was this the really hot one I heard about?
I don't know.
I heard you had a really hot girlfriend at one time when you were quite young, and
Maybe.
all the jocks hated you for it. That's
Yeah.
what I heard.
She was good looking.
Big John.
But yeah, she was in college, so like it was tough when she couldn't come.
Yeah.
You know, that was the challenge. Is like she was at college and like, you know, we're young,
It's college.
whatever. But it was like when she was there, I felt balanced. I had that, you know, kind of, you know, I was grounded, you know, like wasn't trying to search for something. I wasn't
Yeah.
trying to do something. Back then we didn't have the special apps, you know, we have now for tracking down friends and family in the area.
Tracking them down, hunting them down.
You know, it was like I felt balanced, and it's the same thing with Alicia. It was like through my career, she was a balance in certain ways. Like I went through a lot of peaks and valleys, and I owe a lot to her of kind of getting through them. You know, like certain times, like if I didn't have her, I think things would have been a lot worse mentally for me, and I think that was a positive thing. And it's like now I'm single in that realm of things, and I'm, you know, dating or seeing people or doing things, and it's like I kind of caught myself being a mess for a little bit and like not feeling grounded. And it's like, I see how much I want that again. So it's like, I do want that. You know, I think it's a positive thing. And I think it's why all these supercross guys that are, you know, having their best careers while they're married and having kids, because it's like, they're grounded, they're doing their thing, and they know there's something once this ends. You know, yes, it's tough having kids being, everybody's like, you know, I can't believe you're still racing when you have kids. Like people that just don't understand racing say that kind of stuff to you. And it's like, well, they see what I'm doing. They're like excited for your dad. Yeah, there's a risk that, you know, something could happen to me, but they also are around a community of people and meeting so many people, and it's part of their lives in ways, and it's kind of how they grow. You know, it's like instead of just being, you know, having a house in the suburbs and, you know, going to school and, you know, being the same, it's like, it's not the life that I want my kids to be. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's like this year, you know, my kids have been around probably the month of January, probably had a good 60 people come to the property. It's 60 people they got to interact with. My kids are so social. They're so awesome that way. So for me, it's like, you know, it's nice having them around a bunch of people. So if I do bring a girl over, they don't really realize it's a girl. You know, it's like, hey, it's another friend riding. You know, something like that. So it's kind of a nice introduction, you know. So it's you know, it's easing things over for them. So, but it's that balance, I think, is for sure. It's kind of just creates a really good balance, you know, having a relationship in certain ways, you know. I think that's one thing I'm chasing. You know, it's just like chasing results. It's chasing that good balance in a relationship that you can thrive. I want somebody that I can thrive with. I know kind of the stuff I'm into and where I want to see my career and what I want to do, like from now to like 40, which is only 7 years. Yeah, Corey, you know, let me know. But like
Where you said you were 32. Now you're saying
I'm
you're
33.
All right, Chad.
Started at 30.
I was saying that's when I got, you know, separated.
Dude,
you
it's
know,
all right, dude, relax.
Boom, boom, boom.
Relax.
Hold on, let me pull up his date of birth.
So,
What's your social?
oh, that's my date of birth. But no, I think balance is good. You know, it's kind of what I'm, you know, reading a lot of books lately, trying to find that balance. You know, trying to find what I
Chicks
really
like
need.
that. Chicks like guys that read books.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So if we get a lot of female followers on this
Would
one,
you have another kid?
for sure.
Yeah.
I love kids.
Really?
I've loved kids since I was.
I could see
like,
John with like 10 kids.
I
Like
could.
what?
John and
Who's
Kate
the,
plus 10.
who's the Nick Cannon? It's gonna be John.
Johnny K.
Yeah, just why not? Why would you ask
All
these
right,
questions,
Elon.
though, man?
Huh?
Why would you ask these questions?
Because I'm just curious. I mean, I think it's interesting. Like, so what we talked about, what James is saying, like just how that whole trend in Supercross or just racing in general used to be like, you'd be like a bad boy, chasing all the chicks. Like that was like the thing. Like if you had girlfriend, it was gonna be a headache. It wasn't cool.
Is that what Richie said?
No, actually, Richie didn't really give me any advice on the chicks. He was pretty focused. JP, on the other hand.
Yeah, JP.
But no, I mean, that's why. And I think it's also interesting because I don't think people think of racers as like just racing and riding, and they forget that there are people away from it.
Robots, man. And
Yeah.
it's, everybody wants to do it, but it's like, I feel like it's, there was just a big stigma, and it's interesting to see, I mean, just different perspectives, and especially, being married, pretty young
Yeah.
for a long time. So it's interesting, I feel like as well, it maybe keeps you away from some of the parties, so like that stuff. I feel like you see a lot of guys in their career kind of get sucked in, and we've seen some really big names get sucked into some, parties and bad people and stuff like that can't get out. And once you get in, so it's interesting.
Yeah, we have our addiction. It's called two wheels.
Yeah.
That's what sucked me in.
It's
Keep me away from that stuff.
expensive. All right, John. Well,
You got to do it.
We're getting towards the end of it here. We got one last question, and we ask everybody. You're only our second guest, so we've asking everybody now.
Joe and me.
Joe
Joe
and
and
you.
you.
Well,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see what you say. Joe's it's Joe, so he's got what he's gonna do. But I just ask the question. It's fucked.
Just
You're
spit it out.
in jail. We don't know why. You're on death row. You did some bad shit. You got one last meal. What is it?
One last meal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Man.
I
It's
can
your
see in
death
your eyes
row.
what your first thing went to, but we won't go there.
This is it. Full meal. Come on.
Full meal.
Well, just like
I guess it's just surf and turf. I guess now. Surf and turf. You gotta have a little fish, a little steak.
okay, what kind? Like what kind of
Where?
fish?
From where?
I
Yeah.
don't know, like
Like what's your
Something.
favorite
I'd make
meal?
them fly it in from Alaska.
all right.
So like
bring
a
it down.
salmon?
No, it's like king crab legs and all that. Lobster.
Okay.
And a steak.
What kind of steak?
Big juicy one.
But like a fillet?
All of it. Yeah, a little fat on there. Gotta have a little fat.
So ribeye?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's juicy.
What French fries?
What's French fries?
Alcohol?
Trying to stay nice and fit.
Why? You're
Getting
gonna
shocked,
die. You're gonna die.
Get a dad bod. You are a dad,
Got a dad bod.
Would
Yeah,
you
it
would
looks
you have
better
a
than me.
drink, or would you just
Whiskey for sure.
okay?
There you have it.
Surf and turf.
Surf and turf.
Wow. Interesting. Well, dude, seriously, thanks for coming on the show. We knew this was gonna be a fun one. We appreciate it, and yeah.
Thanks for stopping by the Ocho.
Yeah, good for having me here. Garage 8.
Ocho.
Ocho, dude. It's not Garage 8.
It's Garage 8 to me.
See Ocho.
It's
Ocho.
I think
Ocho.
your uncle feels the same way.
All right. Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Later.